I pledge allegiance to the flag of
Flag
the
of
United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. So we have a couple of things before we start our, I would call it our usual meeting. And we're going to start off with, as you can see it on our agenda, with some inaugural comments and future goals. This wouldn't normally be how we would share these thoughts. This would be at the inauguration, but the inauguration was about 2 minutes long because of all the things that are going on. And I thought it appropriate, and so did my colleagues, that we able to share our thanks to the public. And I think we will start, I'm going to go last to give others an opportunity to go first. And we will start with Mary Perella. Go ahead, Mary.
Okay, thank you. I'll be relatively brief. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to take a moment to thank everyone, involved, all of the voters of Bristol for reelecting me, placing their faith and trust in me. I try to do the best on your behalf. I try to do always what I think is in the best interest of Bristol. And right now, I think the most important thing that we all have to work on is, of course, work together, which we're very good at doing anyway, and also work to see Bristol through the COVID crisis. I mean, the businesses, the small businesses are hurting, and to make sure that we have a great transition into making sure everybody is able to get vaccinated who wants to through community clinics and so forth. And we've done that before with other things that have happened, whether it was the meningitis or H1N1, and I know we can do it here. And I think that really is supporting our community and supporting our businesses, and continuing to thank all of our first responders, all of our frontline workers who live in Bristol, all of the healthcare providers, all the grocery store clerks, everybody that has worked so hard. And I also just want to take one moment, and this is not necessarily something I would say as an election related or swearing in, but just to give a shout out to every single person who has worked and been able to pivot and figure out new ways to do things. I've been so impressed with what I've seen at the restaurants, with the churches, with everyone who has managed to do, like, feast food on certain nights of the week, or, have the caserla dinner as takeout, or the fire department. Everybody has figured out a way to do it. It's not always the most easy. It's not always the easiest way to do it. And it's certainly not always the most efficient. But everyone has done a great job in trying. And I hope the public continues to support our restaurants and our small businesses through takeout, curbside delivery. We're almost, I know it sounds like a cliche at this point, but we are almost at the finish line. I hope, I pray, and I really, really can't wait to get the vaccine out there and widespread for all of us, because this thing is just spreading like wildfire, and we just want to protect everyone here in our community. So thank you all for your faith and confidence in me as an elected official. And I want to wish everyone a safe and happy and healthy new year. Hopefully 2021 is going to be way better than 2020. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary. Tony, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be very brief. I would like to thank you all residents that continue to show their confidence in me with their vote. I will continue to put all residents of our Bristol community, regardless of age, on the forefront when considering the various issues that come before the town council. Just one more quick comment here. I'd like to congratulate Chief DeMello for all the efforts for coordinating the regional, vaccination, venue. I have heard very nice comments regarding the coordination in the setup there, and certainly, that's playing a major role here. So thank you to Chief DeMello for that. And with that, I'd like to close with happy, healthy New Year, and may God bless and protect each of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, colleagues. I just want to humbly thank, first of all, the residents of Bristol for trusting me with another year on the town council. It's really exciting. I'm looking forward to working with all my colleagues in the administration to move Bristol forward. COVID has and will present us with some challenges, but I believe we can overcome these. I think we can overcome these challenges by focusing on re-engaging the Economic Development Commission, keeping a keen eye on every line item in our budget throughout the year, which I think we do a good job at, and we want to keep a vigilant eye because we're going to hit tough times, making sure our town stays affordable for everyone. And finally, I'm looking forward to getting vaccinated with everybody against COVID and starting 2021 on the right foot. So that's my hope. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll keep my comments short, just as everybody else. But I just want to take a moment to thank everyone for who voted for my re-election campaign and who had confidence in me. I want to let everybody know that I will continue to work very hard for you and for every single one of our constituents. Let us remember that really the most important policy that we can ever imagine making is right here at the local level, whether it be roads, schools, small businesses, economic development, environmental protection. In some cases, we're the last firewall. We are the ones that can round off the sharp corners of policy being made at other levels of government. And then in some other cases, we might be the last place for people to ever turn. So there will continue to be great challenges that lie before us. And as we confront those issues, I hope that we will continue to demonstrate our resolve, that we will listen to one another with open minds, and that we will continue to show great compassion for one another in our community. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Administrator.
Thank you. So nice to see everyone back. Yeah, I would just like to also thank the public and also my colleagues for your support. And it's great to be able to continue. This is a second chapter of my career in law enforcement. And a lot of what I do in the administrator's office is based on public safety and public health. And as we learned when we were children, nothing's more important than your health. So I'm very proud of our community. This is a community that I was raised and educated in, and I will always work in the best interest of all of our residents that I admire and I respect. And we'll continue to make Bristol one of the more affordable communities to live in. We'll watch our finances, maintain our infrastructure, and work across party lines to the best that we can. So thank all of you. Stay healthy. And Councilman Texera, thank you for acknowledging our fire department, our police department, who have done a superb job in getting the vaccinations out. That just goes to show you how well we're doing to be the regional site for the distribution of the vaccine. It goes, it tells many, it says a lot. So thank you all for your support, and the residents of Bristol. I'm here if anyone needs me. Don't hesitate to reach out to the administrator. Thank you.
Thank you. And Melissa, our new clerk.
Hi. So everybody here has had the opportunity to have an inauguration ceremony before. And as Nathan had mentioned before, our inauguration was 2 minutes. So I am going to try to make this as brief as I can, but I'm going to give myself just a little extra time. So I'm sorry. So as I said, like the inauguration was not in the common setting. But then again, everything in 2020 was everything but common. And in previous years, there were family and friends that were gathered there. There were speeches and prayers. And even though, and despite all of that, it never diminished, the support that I received on election day. And I was very humbled and overwhelmed by the support that I received from my neighbors, my friends, and my colleagues. And I thank everybody for that. And I will promise to work hard. This pandemic has taken a toll on a lot of us. As Mary had mentioned, a lot of local businesses have suffered some incredible losses. And we've turned our homes into offices. We've been teaching our kids at home school, and we've limited even the time that we spend with family and friends. And it's really been a tough year. But throughout that all, we have always found creative and innovative ways to adapt to a lot of these challenges. And many of these challenges have involved technology, and it provided us with avenues to continue in our day-to-day lives. And during my campaign, my main focus was, and still is, to be to provide a more open and transparent government by increasing the access to public documents by using technology. And yesterday, as most of you know, for the first time, this council meeting, a lot of the supporting documents were uploaded onto the town website. And granted, it's far from what other cities and towns are doing for their residents, but I really feel strongly that this is a step in the right direction. And I am looking for ways to address and research some more effective and efficient ways to provide more of those services online. Another goal that I have is to increase the access to online land evidence records. And during the past few months, there's been limited access to physical documents due to the pandemic. And that, in combination with limited access to online services, people have been struggling with the ability to refinance their mortgages or close on their homes. And so I'm putting a comprehensive plan together to work aggressively to get those documents available online. And sorry, really quick, I'm almost done. There is a program that is available to other cities and towns that I've been researching, where it hosts a centralized location for all the boards and commissions, and it outlines current sitting members, term limits, expiration dates, and it has the ability to search for vacancies within boards and commissions. And I know that the council chairman, I had spoke to him about this a little bit before, and I think that this is going to be a great resource to encourage public participation, and it's a great way to get residents involved, to help and to contribute to our community. And there's a lot to get done, and I know that the council and the town administrator shares in my efforts to increase public access and public service. And I have this wonderful staff of professional women, and some have been with the town for some years and for many years, and some just a couple of years. But they are all eager to learn new things and to be able to provide more effective and efficient services to the public. And I'm very, very grateful for them. And as your town clerk, I'm committed to working collaboratively with the town administrator and the members of the council to provide the best service possible that we can to our citizens. And I just want to thank everybody again, and I hope everybody has a very happy and healthy new year. Okay, that's it. Unless you want more.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So lastly, there was a couple of mentions about COVID, and I'm going to ask for a motion to add an agenda item at the end of my brief comments, so we can get an update from Chief DeMello about what this town is doing, not only for this town, but surrounding communities, as Councilman Texera pointed out. But just real quick on my end of things. First, thank you. Thank you to the voters. Thank you to my family and my friends, which are also voters. A lot of support, a lot of kind words, and a lot of efforts to support me and ultimately this council. We heard a lot of words with all of us saying that we support each other and that we want to work together. And that is not a future tense, that is a present and past and future tense. We continue to do that. We do a good job with it. And although we don't see eye to eye on some things, those are very few. If you look at our voting patterns, we vote unanimously about, gosh, I don't know, 98% of the time as a council. But not only that, but the council administrator clerk and just the town in general has got a nice focus and continues to stay on track. We have a lot of things coming up and going on. We go to harbor expansion. We have improvement of public buildings. I'm sitting in town hall, and if anybody's come into town hall in the last few months, you can see all the efforts that were made to keep not only our employees safe, but the public safe. There's so much going on, and we're going to continue to make these decisions. I know that we've got some conversation coming up with the treasurer. You look at our financial status, even in these difficult times, that is hats off not only to the treasurer and our finance department, the administrator, this council, but it's also to the public, because none of this happens without a willingness to be part of the solution. And I'm talking about paying taxes on time, fees, and all of that. It doesn't happen without that. And That, I believe, is an absolute belief in the system and the process that we have right now, and the willingness to change it when appropriate. So hats off to all of you. Well-deserved re-election and election. And that's what I had. So if I may, if I could ask for a motion to add an agenda item to get an update about steps the town is taking in regards to COVID.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made by Mary, seconded by Tony. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye, motion carries. And I'm going to start with you, Mr. Administrator, and I know that Chief DeMello will be sharing some more info.
Actually, I'll defer right to the chief.
Perfect. Chief DeMello.
Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good to
evening.
see everybody from a distance. But it's been a busy couple of weeks, but an exciting couple of weeks, moving in the positive direction. I think we're all excited about that. So as you stated, we had a regional point of dispensing that was created at the direction of the Department of Health. We've been able to push out almost 700 vaccines so far to our EMS, police, other first responders, as well as home health care and some hospice nurses. And this is just the beginning. As the vaccine availability increases and we're able to have more vaccine spread throughout the communities, we'll be able to accelerate the vaccination process, hopefully. And most of this is being directed through the Department of Health. So I don't pick who gets the vaccine. It's what we're basically following the Department of Health's direction and getting it out as quickly as we can to the groups that have been identified. And that's pretty much where that stands now. It changes multiple times a day. The information is always changing, and they're adding as many people as they can when that vaccine availability is there to increase those vaccinated. And the second part of it is we're working diligently to increase our testing in the town. And hopefully, as the days go on, we'll be able to offer the residents some improved testing. So those that are concerned that they may have been exposed or just want to get tested to see if they had COVID-19, we'll hopefully be able to expand that in the near future.
It's outstanding. It's great to hear. I know that we all are happy to see that, well, it speaks volumes that it's happening here in Bristol, that the vaccinations and also next steps in regards to more testing to help people feel either more comfortable or if they do show positive to stay safe and away from others while they go through their own self-quarantine. So outstanding job, Chief. I'd like to open up to my colleagues if you had any comments or questions. Mary.
I always have comments or questions. First of all, congratulations, Chief. I think that's so wonderful that Bristol has been recognized in this way and is doing such a good job in getting the region, the East Bay region, I believe. Also to you, I understand that you had COVID yourself, and I'm glad to see that you recovered. The one group, and anytime I have an opportunity to ask about this, just to raise this population up somewhere or to get the word out. I don't hear too much about the, you mentioned home healthcare workers, and there are many agencies in Rhode Island, as you know, but there are also many people who provide care, either family or the family pays someone and they pay them on their own, they're not through agencies. And so there's a number of people, as several, as we all know, who are in their 80s, 90s, 100s, who live in their own home and are having people coming in and taking care of them. I can name just a number of them off the top of my head. Where do those home healthcare workers, because they're not affiliated with like the visiting nurse or they're not affiliated with an agency who is known for that, where do those folks fit in? Because it's very important that, I can speak from my personal experience with a mother who's 87, trying to make sure that she stays well and that the people around her that we have, and if anyone has to step out for whatever reason, they're just sick or one person had surgery, you can't just call someone and get someone in quickly and easily because you worry about COVID. So I'm curious about that group of people. And I'm assuming that the people who are in their 80s and 90s and more I'm hoping that their doctors will be setting up, whether it's either through the home. And I'm hoping that if we have the resources through the EMS services for people who can't get out, many people can get out and get to their doctors or get to a clinic for their shots. But otherwise, if we would be able to do that, somewhat like I saw very briefly on the news tonight at Central Falls, I think they were in one of the senior housing. And so I was wondering if you could either just comment on those, or if you can take that back to the powers that be at the state and raise the issue of those folks, that elderly people in their homes and their caregivers.
Sure. So anytime there's an opportunity to kind of push that vaccine out to another demographic, we've certainly been pushing that up to the Department of Health. So during this clinic, if we've had some available doses come up, we try to reach out through their guidance as to who we can offer it to. And I think through the multiple towns, so there's the 8 cities and towns in Bristol and Newport County. And as we have worked through this initial clinic, talked with all the other fire chiefs and other municipal leaders in those communities, we certainly have all identified situations as you described that we want to try to get that vaccine out. And I think as far as getting it out and getting into the location, much like the example in Central Falls, that's certainly on all our radar. And I think we all have the capability to bring the vaccine to a location where it needs to be. Some of the things that make it slightly a little more cumbersome is making sure that we have a physician or a nurse practitioner on site, so any of the medical questions can be answered regarding allergies and things like that. But it's something we've been working on, and I think what's nice about the municipal partnership is it's not just one town; it's 2 counties that are pushing information to the Department of Health and saying, "Hey, we need this. We need more vaccine. We need to hit these populations." And we'd all like to have an infinite supply and just open up a drive-through and just keep giving people the vaccine as fast as we could. And I think we'll get there. It's just going to take some time to ramp up that production. There's another vaccine in the mix I heard today that came out or got approval, I think, in Europe. So we'll see where that goes. And maybe we'll get another vaccine that'll speed it up. But essentially, that's where that lies at this point. And I think I have to give some credit to the other communities for stepping up. They've all contributed, both the manpower to do the vaccinations, volunteers to man some of the other stations. And, we'll continue with that format as long as we're in a regional format as well.
Yeah, I think it's just the private, I don't know how to explain them, like the private caregivers that are out there. I think there are many, many more than we probably realize out there, and they do span in ages from maybe teens and 20s all the way up to 70s, companions, things like that elderly who are in their home rely on greatly. And so family members are trying to protect everybody. So realizing that the consequence, and a few people do, maybe somebody a couple of evenings a week, but then has another person that maybe they're the full-time person, the caregiver of. And so it's just a very important population that I just want to make sure doesn't get lost in the shuffle, because they're not necessarily on any list of home health care aid or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, I'll certainly get that on the list. And multiple emails a day to the Department of Health when we come up with things like this. So we'll get that pushed up to them.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Council people, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question for Chief DeMello. Chief, thanks for everything that you're doing, all the hard work that you guys are putting into this, your men and women. How will people know when it's time to get vaccinated? What kind of outreach is done, or what can we expect in the future as to whether you might fall within a group that might be able to have access to a vaccine? Is this something where there's lists of healthcare workers and then we're doing outreach or whatever? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So this is built into a lot of the plans at the Department of Health. Plans have been around 20 years or better, I'm sure. And they've identified, that's how they came out and identified you. We hear this 1A, 1B, and the CDC comes out initially, kind of gives their recommendation. The states kind of adopt it and tweak it as they see fit to move on. So the initial push through us was through email and provided a link. And I think for subset groups, that's an effective way of doing it. I think when we get into the public realm, it'll be kind of like H1N was. One was several years back. There's going to have to be a little more flexibility, but I think ideally, once that opens up, the based on what we've seen so far in the past few days, scheduling appointments, having appointment times, we're averaging getting people through in about 7 minutes, 7 to 10 minutes. So if we can do that and keep that flow in a public spectrum, we'll be able to push a lot of people through in a relatively quick time. But at that point, I think it would be each city and town kind of making that happen.
Maybe you could share your process with my doctor's office, although they're wonderful people. They're not 7 minutes. So
No, we can't fix everything.
anything else on the council? And Mr. Solicitor, no motion or action on this one, correct?
You can't actually.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Chief. Outstanding job.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we get to our regular meeting, we have one more thing, which are some citations that were requested through Councilman Sweeney. So I'm going to defer to you if I may start with you, and I have some notes if you would like me to reference them in regards to those 3 citations. But Councilman Sweeney?
Yeah, I'm going to actually go to the town clerk on this. Melissa, do you have the citations for Betty Brito and the others, or?
She gave them all to me.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to juggle it right back to Nathan.
Yeah.
Chairman.
So, Tim, why don't I start off for you and then you take it the rest of the way, is that we have 3 citations for Town of Bristol volunteers, specifically for the library. The first one is for the chair, Elizabeth Betty Brito, who after 30 years of service, and then for the secretary, Magdalene Chinese, who's there for 24 years of service. And you got to feel bad for Robert Arruda with only 19 years of service when you pale in comparison at 19 years. So outstanding job. And, you know, it's a perfect beacon of talking about the volunteerism in Bristol. But Councilman Sweeney, you take it the rest of the way, please.
Yeah, no, thank you, Chairman. Just we wanted to recognize these 3 individuals for their outstanding service, especially with the library. And we realize now, even with COVID, we see how important that library is to so many people that are looking for jobs or need a resource or a safe place to go. And we want to thank these 3 individuals for what they've done. That library would not be what it is today without their hard work. So thank you so much. And we appreciate it.
Is there any added comments from council? Okay. Mary?
I just think like we have been so fortunate with the caliber of people that have always come forward from all of our boards. Betty has done so much, all of them, Betty, Matt, and Bob, so much for the library. The trustees and the friends groups have been so awesome in really carrying the ball in so many areas for us. And we're very, very, very fortunate to have had them participate for as many years as they did. So I personally am I think we all owe you all a very big debt of gratitude, and thank you so much.
Well said, Mary. Thank you. Okay. So there's no motion necessary there because those were citations. So we're going to go to our regularly scheduled meeting. Madam Clerk.
Okay, so Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the first item of business is the consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to pull CC1 and MM2 from the consent agenda, please.
So I heard CC1 and MM2. Is there a second? I didn't hear this.
Second.
Thank you. So motion made by Councilman Sweeney for CC1 and MM2 to be pulled and to approve the consent agenda past that, correct? Right, Tim? Approving it with those pulled.
With those pulled, the rest of the consent agenda, yes.
Okay, perfect. And there was seconded by Mary. Discussion?
I just confirmed that was CC, sorry, this is Aaron Lay. CC1 and MM2.
CC1 and MM2, that is correct.
Okay,
And
thank you.
we'll take those up, well, depending on the vote, we'll take those up at the end of the meeting. Tim, was there something else before we took that vote?
Nope. I just wanted to pull those for discussion.
Perfect. Okay. So is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Mary,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
On CC1, I just wanted to bring to.
Well, if I may, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We'll take those up at the end of the meeting so we can go through the normal agenda, but we'll certainly,
fine.
so they'll be right at the end, right after.
Perfect. Okay. Got it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is item A. It's the submission of the minutes. It's A1 for the meeting of November 18th, 2020, and the meeting from December 9th, 2020.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
So motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to approve those minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. The next item on the agenda, this is for public hearings. The first one that we have is Dimitri Gatos from Bristol House of Pizza. It's at 55 State Street, requesting for a Class BV liquor license. I do want to bring to the attention of the council members that this is subject to the adoption of second reading from item C1, which is the ordinance for 2020-09, prior to granting the license.
So, and Clerk and I spoke about this a little bit earlier. It's a great point is that normally we would kind of combine, but we have to pass the ordinance before we can approve a license. That's why it's like that. So as pointed out, this is a public hearing. So I'm going to open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? And I have to assume that Greg is on the call. Greg Gatos is on the call to speak in favor. Chris, I know you're watching this. I do not see him, but please help me. There he is right there. So is there anyone here to speak in favor? Greg, is that you?
Yes, it is, Mr.
If you
Chairman.
could state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Gregory Gatos, 55 State Street, Bristol, Rhode Island, 02809.
And you're speaking in favor of this, what is taking a limited BV, meaning beer and wine, and making it a full BV, correct?
That is correct.
Anything that you wanted to share? Everybody knows Bristol House of Pizza, but this is your 30-second commercial if you'd like it.
Yes, I put a commercial on online the other day. No, I would just like to, I'd be grateful if we awarded this opportunity. And like I believe we spoke at the last meeting, things are obviously changing drastically. And we feel if we're able to be provided with this upgrade and maintain an equal competitive edge, it would definitely make life a lot easier. And yeah, that's it. So I'm in favor.
I'm glad you are, because you asked for
Yeah.
it.
Why not?
You really have a problem if you want.
Yeah, I don't know what we do in an instance like that. So, all right. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone else to speak in favor? And everyone, I'm just going to give it an extra second just in case because of the clunkiness of Zoom, just to make sure. Okay. Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Again, I'm going to give it an extra moment here. Okay, hearing none. We just need a motion to close the public hearing.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Tony to close the public hearing, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is the second public hearing, which is for Aiden Graham from Playa Avalines, 198 Thames Street, requesting for a Class BV liquor license. And also, please see item D2 on the agenda for this.
So we can combine D2 with this, if it's part of this conversation at the end of the public hearing, I suppose. So I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? And I'm looking for a hand raise. I know Chris Vitale is helping me with this. If I know that, Chris, help me out if you see either the applicant, Aiden Graham, or Betty Ann, and they may have called in.
I do not see him, Mr. Chairman.
Either do I. Okay. So is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Again, I'm just going to give it an extra count here. I'm not missing anything, Chris?
Nope.
Okay. Is there anyone here to speak against? Is there anyone here to speak against? Is there anyone here to speak against?
Motion to close the public hearing.
So I'll move.
There's a motion to close the public hearing made by Tim, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. What's this council's pleasure? So I'm actually, before I ask you, I know I just asked you for that, but maybe a little bit of clarity is that I did speak with the applicant today, and we needed some clarity, which I was able to get from the applicant. One of them was the requested close time. There was a license there before, as we all know, and the close time was 1. What is being proposed is a steakhouse, which is different from what we have in other restaurants in town. I think it's a nice compliment. It's a close time is proposed at 11:30. The floor plan is proposed to be unchanged at the moment, with a potential decrease in the bar size to make way for more tables, so more seating for dining. But that would be a down the road. So what's proposed in front of us is the no change in seating and setup. It's my understanding also that they are hoping to open probably in about 4 to 5 months. We talked about COVID, and we will, as this meeting continues, is that one of the concerns is the changes with COVID and what is open times and closed times. And what I mean by that is getting people in the door safely. And we all understand this. I'm not making an advertisement for them, but I had a conversation with them. So I don't think I can answer any of your questions. I know that we have a menu. We have a proposed close time of 11:30. I should also say that the police department had a late opportunity to weigh in on this, and they did. And Captain Burke, I know that, or the chief, I know both of you are on. It's my understanding that you had no objections to both the close time and the request.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Speaking with Chief Lynch earlier, that's correct. Those items that you mentioned, the closing time of 11:30, the no change to the floor plan, with those items in mind, Chief Lynch has approved or recommended that his recommendation in favor of this license based on those 2 items.
What's this council's pleasure, or if there's other conversation, please?
I just have a question. Is this like not a transfer? Is this the same license, or is that license expired and we have to go out for a new license?
The license expired, and Mr. Solicitor, please weigh in if you disagree. The license expired, but the license exists. So it is no longer attached to that address. So it is an existing full license, but it is no longer belongs to that address or business. How's that?
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? What's this council's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the license for the the petition requesting.
Is there a second?
Second that motion.
There's a motion made by Tony to approve that license, seconded by Tim.
And
Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to add that, of course, in that motion is compliance with all town rules, regulations, and statutes applicable to liquor licenses, and it's based upon the application presently before you.
It's exactly what I heard Tony say.
It took me a little time to get that out, but we did get it.
Very well worded, sir. Very well worded. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none.
Glad to see the lights on. It's good to see the lights back on there eventually. It's been closed and I'm glad it's opening.
I agree, and I also think that that close time is great for the neighborhood. I also think it's reflective of a restaurant, not a bar, and I think it's great. So all in all, and more importantly, I think a steakhouse in Bristol sounds fun. So
Looking forward to it.
yeah, exactly. Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. Mary,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is the ordinances, and this is going to be item C1, and this is for ordinance 2020-9. And this is in regards to alcoholic beverage establishments, and this is to decrease the number of Class B limited licenses from 5 to 4, and to increase the BV license from 30 to 31, and this is the second reading for adoption.
What's
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve it.
Second.
There's a motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mary,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Tim, Aaron.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries.
Okay, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item is item C2, which is the ordinance number 2020-10. And this is to create a no parking area on Prospect Street. And this is also second reading for adoption.
So I'm going to ask that we have just a quick refresher on this. It's my recollection from our last meeting that there was a combination of a handicap parking and then a no parking. And this was so we could, lack of a better term, clean it up and have the no parking where the current handicap parking is, and then move handicap from where it currently is up a little bit, making both the resident asking for the no parking and the handicap very happy. Did I get that correct?
You did.
Excellent. Okay. What's this council's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve it.
Second the motion.
Motion made by Tony to approve, seconded by Tim. Mr. Solicitor, did you need to add something? No? Okay. All right. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item C3, and this is for the ordinance in regards to the tangible property tax assessment for the exemption to businesses that have tangible property values of 10,000 or less. And this is also the second reading for adoption.
If we could get a motion, and then I would like the, through the administrator, I'd like to hear from the tax assessor and also from economic development, if we may.
I'd like to move that we approve this ordinance. It's something that we've been working on for a very long time, and it's good to see it finally come to fruition.
Second, Tony.
And made by Mary to approve, seconded by Tony. I know we all would like to share a little bit. I'd like to start with the administrator, and I'll ask him to go through, please.
Sure. If council members, if you recall, this was an effort to simplify the paperwork and the burden of running a business. I know it's a small part, but hopefully it is a help. And we've learned that there's very small impact to our tax revenues, and the tax assessor is here to explain that. First, I'd like Chris Vitale. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Just briefly, I know, as Mary's mentioned, we've been working on this for a while, and really happy to see it coming to fruition. I know that Michelle DeMeo and I met a little bit earlier today, and we're prepared to have updated forms, updated information, so we can notify the businesses, because those bills, the notices have gone out, but people will start completing those returns in a couple of days. So this meeting was very timely, that we were able to get it approved before the new year. And there's going to be hundreds of businesses that benefit from this. Michelle has those updated numbers for this year, but thank you guys so much for your efforts on this.
Michelle?
Hello.
Hello. Came out of nowhere. That's funny.
So we have approximately 720 businesses in town, and about 400 of those have a tangible value of $10,000 or less. So this will be a huge help for many small businesses in town. And go ahead. Were you going to ask a question? Sorry.
No, I was going to agree. Go ahead.
Okay. So the total value on our tax levy will be a reduction of about $18,500. So considering how many businesses we're helping, there's not a big difference in the revenue for the town. So
I think we all do. We all think it's outstanding. Well, obviously, this council we had a lot of discussion about this with input from you and from Chris, the administrator, from the treasurer. And one of the things that I think is exactly to your point is that, yes, we're lessening revenues by $18,500. We're also lessening efforts in manpower and womanpower on the town level, and then on the business level. So we've freed up both sides. So I think that it is well outweighed the efforts that were put in to count sometimes a couple of $100, and I'm talking about a value then would be taxed. It's a tremendous next step. And I'll tell you this too, is that other communities have reached out to me commending Bristol for taking this step, and they're looking to do the same thing. So outstanding job to all. Well, we haven't voted on it yet, but so far outstanding job. So anyone else? No? Okay. So thank you, Michelle, Mr. Administrator, Chris. So is there any other comments from the Mr. Administrator?
Yeah, I think I just would like to make a plug for the town. Is another step in the right direction for small business. And another important thing to get out is $14.07 is our commercial tax rate, one of the lowest, if not the lowest, in the state of Rhode Island for commercial properties. So I think it just tells everyone that's looking to do business, if they can find space here in Bristol, it certainly makes sense financially as far as your taxes. There's also a wide array of other benefits that Chris Vitale does an excellent job getting out, whether it be tax stabilization, the services of commercial trash pickup. There's numerous things that the town does. So thank you for considering this, and I think it's another step in the right direction to help our businesses and make Bristol clearly a very well balanced community, place to live, place to work, so thank you for your consideration.
So, Mr. Administrator, I think you'll be writing the PR for the community moving forward. I thought that was outstanding. So any other conversation from the council? Okay, hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron? I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, will be moving to the new petitions, and the first item is D1. Again, will be the Bristol House of Pizza requesting the Class BV liquor license, and this is what we had spoken about on item B1.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the license for the respective business. I mean, they've been in business for over 40 years, and they've paid their dues here in town, and certainly this is a great opportunity for them to expand.
And
Mike,
Tony,
you wanna
I'm
add?
going to add, and subject to compliance with all town and state statutes and regulations.
Thank you. I was thinking about that. Thank you.
I didn't see your lips move, Tony, but that was excellent. Is there a second?
I'll second.
So motion made by Tony to approve, seconded by Tim. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
So we can skip over D2 if I'm correct, right? Because we already approved that. So the next item will be D3, again for Aidan Graham. And this is also for 198 Thames Street. And this is a request for a vigiling license. And here we have two recommendations, one from the town administrator and the fire chief, and also a recommendation from the town administrator and water pollution control.
What's this council's pleasure?
I move that we approve the petition for a license, a vigiling license, as long as they are in compliance with the recommendations suggested. I believe the water pollution control, I believe they have something they have to do prior to getting that, so that they would have to be in conformance before any license is issued. I think that's correct.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Mary to approve with those conditions already stated, seconded by Tony. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is item D4, and this is from Leonard Jones from Easy Work Nutrition and Fitness on 490 Medicom Avenue, also requesting a vigiling license. And here we have a recommendation from the town administrator and the chief of police.
Based on the recommend, I'm
Okay.
sorry, go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say, based on the positive recommendations, I make a motion to approve the vigiling license for Easy Work Nutrition.
I'll second.
Motion made by Tim to approve, seconded by Tony. Is the applicant, is Leonard Jones on our meeting for this evening? I don't see him, or I don't see someone labeled that way, I should say. I wanted to give an opportunity for our 30-second commercial. No? Okay, all right. So is any discussion from the council? Hearing none, we had a motion and a second. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to approve. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is item F1, and this is a petition from Susan Rancourt and Road Races and Events, Inc. in partnership with the Bristol 4th of July Committee regarding a half marathon on Saturday, June 26, 2021. And we also have recommendations. We have two, one from the town administrator and the acting director of public works, and also from the town administrator and the chief of police.
I know that Susan's on the call. Chris, if you could give her access to speak. Thank you. And there she is. Susan, if you could state your full name and address for the record and maybe share a little bit.
Good afternoon. This is Susan Rancourt from 3 Mayo Drive in Warren. And yes, this will be the 6th year of the Bristol Half Marathon, otherwise known as the Independence Road Race. We do it in conjunction with the 4th of July Committee. And it's generally done the Saturday before the 4th. And as many of you know, we do it very early in the morning so that we try to minimize the impact to residents and on the roads. Obviously, this year we did not host it based on everything that kind of happened. But we do believe by the end of July that hopefully the majority of this will be behind us. And if there are still policies and protocols in place, we actually did execute a half marathon, full marathon, and 5K in Narragansett in October. We did contact tracing. There was no COVID positives as a result of the race, but we do have a very extensive procedure and protocol in place that was approved by the DBR and working with Liz Tanner's group. But it is a working doc. As things evolve between now and the end of June, we will continue to make that document relevant to the CDC and state regulations at the time. And we do have a full marathon that will be happening in Newport before this race. So we continue to learn from best practices, from industry experts, but we have seen that for the most part, outdoor events are very safe. And we look forward to getting back to doing what we love.
Any questions for Susan? Mary?
I had one, Susan, just, I believe we discussed it last year at this time, just in relation to the amplification at the 6:30 timeframe, 6:30 a.m. I believe you said that wasn't amplified until, or there wasn't very noise until you did the Star Spangled Banner and you kicked off. I just wanted to bring that up. I didn't see that referenced anywhere in anything that you submitted. And just to be conscious that there are neighbors there and to, that's very early for people to be assembling. So to just keep it as quiet as possible.
Definitely. Yes, Mary, I'm very empathetic to, our discussion that we've had previously, and we will continue to, only do the Star Spangled Banner before the race. We will do it at a very low volume just for the people that are kind of standing right there, and no other music until the noise ordinance is lifted.
Thank you.
Is there any other discussion from the council? Okay, what's this council's pleasure?
I move that we approve it based on all the recommendations and obviously considering the issues that Mary raised as well.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Tony to approve with those recommendations and suggestions, seconded by Mary. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Good luck, Susan.
Thank you guys very much. Enjoy your night.
You too.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah.
So the next item on the agenda, these are the public service appointments. And the first one that we have is for the Juvenile Hearing Board with term to expire December 2023. And we have N. Diane Davis of 25 Butterworth Avenue seeking interest in reappointment.
I move that we approve Diane to the reappointment.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to reappoint. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries.
The next item is the Juvenile Hearing Board. This is for an alternate member, term to expire December 2023. And we have a Henry Cabral Jr. of 54 Sefton Avenue seeking interest in reappointment.
I move that we approve the reappointment, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Tony to reappoint, seconded by Tim. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is for the Personnel Board, and this is for a term to expire December 2024. And we have a Renee Bellotti Wetterland of 3 Leela Jean Drive seeking interest in reappointment.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we reappoint Renee.
Second.
Motion made by Tony to reappoint, seconded by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries.
Okay. The next item on the agenda. So this one is going to be for the Board of Tax Assessment Review. And we have a couple here. So there is a term to expire December 2023. There is a vacancy with a term to expire December 2022. And there's also a vacancy for an alternate with a term to expire December 2021. And just to give a little explanation on that. So there are 3 appointed members for this particular position, and no more than 2 can be of the same political party. And we have here 2 correspondents, one from the chair of the Democratic Town Committee, Eric Hasselhurst, with a nomination of Carolyn Medina for reappointment. And we also have a correspondence from Thomas Carroll, who is the chairman of the Republican Town Committee, with a nomination for Peter A. Hewitt for appointment.
Mr. Chairman, I would move the approval of both of those, both Carol Medina and Pete Hewitt, to serve in those respective capacities. So Carolyn is reappointment, and Pete would be filling in Carolyn Breslin's position, as I understand it.
May I also suggest your motion includes that have we advertised for the alternate position at this point, Madam Clerk? Do you know?
I am not aware that we have, no.
Okay, so could that include that advertisement?
Of course,
Certainly.
yes. And I
Perfect.
think it would also mean another outreach to the Republican Town Committee Chair, because when I'm looking at that's like a quote unquote Republican alternate position.
Gotcha. Okay.
And just to state, we have sent correspondence to the Republican chair in regards to that alternate position. So I know that he is working on one too. So, but I will also let him know.
Perfect. Is there a second to Mary's
I'll
motion?
second that, Mr. Chairman.
So motion made by Mary to reappoint Carolyn Medina, appoint Peter Hewitt, and then advertise for the alternate, what Vice Chair Perrella believes to be the Republican alternate spot. Am I correct with that?
Correct.
Okay. Excellent. Is there any conversation or discussion? I would actually just like to add one thing here, is that I wanted these made before I made the comment, is that I think Bristol is now up to 70% unaffiliated. And I think that is really strong comment on leaving 70% of the population out to be on this board and potentially other boards. I'd love us to take a look a little closer and not to exclude a party, but right now we're excluding 70% of the population, of the voting population. It doesn't seem right. And I know we have great opportunities, and I wanted the motion in the second because this is no reflection of the parties nor the candidates that are reappointed or appointed. But I think we should take a look a little closer at this position and others to better reflect what our voting and more importantly, our residents are, which is about 70%, might even be higher than that. So, and that way it better reflects the people of Bristol. So we don't have to do that tonight. I just wanted to put that out there, and maybe I can do a little bit more research and find out what would be necessary to do that.
Just wondering if there's state law that says it has to be a Republican Democratic Party membership, Mike?
I don't think it's a state law. I think it's in your charter. The state law applies to boards of
We're missing you. Okay.
We'll give Mike a second.
While Mike is coming back, could I just mention one thing? I mean, there are, I think if I looked there's several thousand registered Republicans, if I remember correctly, in the on the voter rolls. A very small number of those people participate as a Republican activist or Republican town committee member. And since these letters usually go out to the party chairs, I think it might be beneficial just to advertise it widely. Like if you are affiliated as a registered Republican, I mean, you don't have to be active in the town committee to reach out to us, and we can always let the party chair know. And this would be for either side of that, because it really is anyone who's registered at that as a Republican or a Democrat.
So Mary, make a great point, and I think maybe we could take some extra steps there as at least an interim step. But I would also like us to consider opening this up to again reflect the majority, super majority actually, of the public. And no negative reflection on either party. Is more about having more opportunity. But I like your thought process is that you don't have to be part of the town committee to be considered for this. Just a registered Democrat, registered Republican.
I mean, even if we decide today to do that, unless we have a special election, we're not going to do a charter change until the next election anyway.
So fair enough. So I will look into this and come back to the council and find out what would it take, and I'll work with the solicitor on that and the clerk. So,
Mr. Chairman, just very briefly to your point, I did do a little research just to find out, not about this specifically, but about just registration. And as Mary pointed out, right now we have approximately 1,500 registered Republicans, 4,500 Democrats, and 7,600 independents.
wow. Yeah.
An affiliate right now.
Yeah. So my numbers were a little stronger than I thought, but still a huge representation there. So any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, we had a motion and a second to appoint and reappoint and advertise, or reappoint, appoint, and advertise. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is G1F, and this is a resignation letter from Denise Ashola from the Capital Projects Commission.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept Denise Ashola's resignation with a letter of thanks and appoint Marie Knappman to the Board of Canvassers.
We skipped
Sorry.
over the board canvassers. Right, because there were two right in a row.
Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped one. That's my fault. My apologies. So I'm gonna go back and read that. Is that all right?
Mhm.
So it's actually G1E for the Board of Canvassers. I apologize again. And this is to fill the unexpired term ending March 2022. And we have the resignation from Denise Ashola. And we also have a correspondence from Eric Hasselhurst, the chair of the Democratic Town Committee, with a nomination of Marie Knappman for appointment.
Sorry, Miss, do you guys need me to restate my motion?
Yeah.
Okay. So a motion to accept Denise Ashola's resignation with a letter of thanks and to appoint Marie Knappman to the Board of Canvassers.
Could I ask a question, Tim? I can second it for purposes of discussion. Charlie Alexander is still on this list, and as we all know, he passed away a couple of months ago. Is that, so that, like, are we filling the Denise's alternate position or the full position?
So the members on that Board of Canvassers are Fran O'Donnell, Michael Smith, and then Denise Ashola took Charlie Alexander's
Okay,
place.
all right, okay,
Thank you.
okay, thank you, because I was looking at the list that still had Denise as the alternate. Okay. I just had forgotten the other, thank you.
So we had a motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary to accept the resignation with a letter of thanks to Denise Ashola, and then to appoint Marie Knappman to that open position for the Board of Canvassers. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, back to G1F is the Capital Projects Commission, and we have a resignation from, a letter of resignation from Denise Ashola.
We motion that we approve it with the letter of thanks. Well, maybe it could be incorporated into the same letter, I guess.
Right.
Tim, I'll take that as a second.
Yes. You got
Excellent.
that.
All right. A motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim. I'm just going to take a moment. I was on the first one, but I know we're sending a letter of thanks, but thank you to Denise. She was on this plus a myriad of other boards. She was the right-hand woman of Diane Medeiros for years if you came into town hall, and she's done a lot for Bristol. And I know she continues to with church and other functions and just being her. So thank you. So, all right, so we had a motion and a second to accept the resignation. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is for the Christmas Festival Committee. This is item G1G, and we have a interest in appointment from a Mary Vanderventer of 345 Thames Street. And we also have a recommendation by Michael J. Riley, the general chairman of the Christmas Festival Committee.
Mr. Chairman, based on the recommendation of the chair, I move that we approve the appointment.
Second.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
You and Mary gonna get into the seconds on this stuff?
I
Okay.
don't-
No, I mean, no, I'm trying not to like say it too fast because, you know, like sometimes I'm just, usually Tim is like very quick. So
All right. I can get quicker if you want, you know, I'm just trying to
I'm not trying to like,
balance out.
It's the four-way stop that nobody wants to go. Right?
who goes first?
So- Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is for the Historic Districts Commission to fill an unexpired term ending in July 2021. We received a resignation from Gerald Walsh, and we have a Renee Cortellessa of 208 Hope Street seeking interest in appointment.
Mr. Chairman, I think that we should interview the candidate, find out first if Sonny Furtado, who's the alternate, wants to move up to that full position. And also, I'm very, very happy to see somebody coming forward with such a great background. And she talked about the tutelage with Lombard Posey. But usually we would interview them and find out about the alternate position.
Could I also, I'm assuming also that we would want to thank Gerald Walsh will accept his resignation and send a letter of thanks.
Yes,
Perfect. Is there a second to Mary's motion?
I'll second.
So a motion made by Mary, seconded by Tony to set up an interview. I reached out to the clerk prior to this meeting, actually the deputy clerk, and she reached out to Renee. And Renee is available on the 27th. If you all recall, we have a meeting scheduled. It's a workshop for our zoning conversation. Renee Cortellessa is available 20 minutes before that meeting, so 6:40. So if you could all put that on your calendar, and we'll do the interview on that day. If another interview is presented to us, maybe we'll push that up by 10 minutes. Okay. So, but if you could all put that on your calendars. All right, so we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Tony?
Aye.
Mary?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron? I didn't hear you.
Aye.
Thank you. And I also vote aye. Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is G1I, and this is the Rogers Free Library Board of Trustees. And we have a correspondence from Elizabeth Bridow, the chair of Rogers Free Library of Trustees, and with a recommendation of Al Roblowski for appointment.
What's this council's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, based on the recommendation of the chair, I move that we approve the appointment.
Second.
Motion made by Tony to approve the appointment, seconded by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries.
The next item on the agenda is G1J, and this is for the appointment to the Joint Finance Committee, terms to expire January 2023. And just to give a little background on that, by statute, the town administrator, it's only the town administrator or his designee and the town council chairman. And then there will be appointments of 4 other seats with terms to expire in January 2023.
And typically, these are obviously the council and the administrator, unless each council person would like to appoint someone else, or anyone wants to appoint someone else on their behalf. What's the council's pleasure?
It's a little funny. It's a little funny to make a motion to approve,
Appoint yourself?
to appoint ourselves though, but I'll move it.
Okay, there's a motion to appoint yourselves. Is there a second?
Second. Anybody can second.
Okay, motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary. Is there any discussion? Just real quick, I was in contact with the chairman of the Joint Finance Committee, and the hope is to potentially schedule a meeting in January. I'm well aware of the 20th and the 27th that are already scheduled. But it would be, of course, to pick reorganization would be the best way to put that, chair and such and so forth. So just to put that on your radar. So motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. This is the part where I say thank you. I'm going to start off with all of you because you appointed yourselves, but all the volunteerism. We just went through a whole list of people. We thank those that have been doing, well, we started the meeting, right? Thanking those who've given back not only on those boards, but others for years upon years. We are truly fortunate in Bristol to have so many people willing to give back to the community with the only expectation of making the community better. So this council, the administrator, the clerk, and the town in general says, thank you.
So now we're going to be moving on to new business. The first item on this part is I-1, and it's Jordan Sawyer of Brick Pizza Company for 500 Wood Street, requesting a new Class BV liquor license.
So I can see that Jordan is on the call. So Jordan, I'm going to, in a moment, ask you to state your name and address for the record. What this is a request, right? For a expansion of one, I suppose, to add a liquor license to one that doesn't currently exist, for what looks to be a new restaurant. I say looks to be, I know it is a new restaurant, but Jordan, if you could share what's going on and why you're asking for the license, and full name and address for the record, please.
Hi, thanks for having me. Let me speak. My name is Jordan Sawyer. Live at 45 Kickamuit Ave in Bristol, Rhode Island. The Unity Park 500 Wood Street location, we are planning on putting a brick oven pizza restaurant, which is an upscale new American restaurant specializing in artisan brick oven pizza while offering creative farm-to-table dishes, usually using locally sourced ingredients.
Jordan, I'm already hungry. Go ahead.
We are requesting a full liquor license for a few reasons. One being, a full liquor license would help Brick Pizza Company be a more desirable place to work for industry professionals, giving me the opportunity to hire more qualified employees, and are more experienced and are better trained and are more responsible in serving alcoholic beverages. Also, the newly redeveloped Unity Park is going to be a new area of town that is going to generate an influx of people from surrounding towns. And we will have one chance at a first impression, and we want to get off on the right foot.
That was excellent presentation. I got to tell you that normally, and I'm speaking for myself at the moment, normally we wouldn't even consider a full BV license right off the bat for a new restaurant. But Jordan, you skipped this part of it, is the Bristol Oyster Bar, right? How long have you owned Bristol Oyster Bar?
Coming up on 2 years now. I moved to Bristol in 2017 to work at the Bristol Oyster Bar, and I purchased it in 2019. And 6 months after that, I purchased a home in Bristol. When I started working here, I fell in love with the town. And I'm not just an entrepreneur with business interests in the town. I'm now a part of the fabric of this community. And since moving here, I've built relationships in this town with people whom I now consider family. I care about Bristol very much. I want to contribute to the growth and prosperity of the town and my neighbors. So I do own the Bristol Oyster Bar, and I am looking to expand and open up some new job opportunities for some of my neighbors.
So I'd like to open up to the council for questions.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we refer this to the town solicitor to create a new ordinance or to add a new license to the ordinance.
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Motion made by Tony to refer to the solicitor to create an ordinance to add an additional liquor license, seconded by Tim. Discussion.
Mr. Chairman, Tim, Jordan, I'm super excited that you're going to be putting another restaurant into town. I think it's great. Wood Street and that whole Unity Park. We're so excited to see that, take shape and finally take off. Just curious what the timeline is on the pizza company.
I'm thinking optimistically right now, we're looking at May. But with COVID, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a setback here or there.
Thank you.
Jordan, I just want to say that I've read lots of letters of requests for liquor licenses, but this is by far one of the best ones I've ever read. I just really enjoyed it, and I like your very graphic detail of the types of restaurants. Like I am gonna have to look up like an Irish car bomb drink and the shots. I mean, I do appreciate you differentiating right up front, like what you're looking to become, what you want your restaurant to be. And because as you know, owning another restaurant in downtown, you know, we are very concerned about things not just becoming bars and like, you know, causing havoc in the neighborhoods, but that, you know, they're restaurants that happen to serve drinks as well. So, but I just wanted to compliment you on your letter.
Mary, we could have a car bomb at the ribbon cutting. How about it?
I have no idea what it is, so
Not at the Brick Pizza
but
Coaster.
I know they don't serve at the Capitol Grill. I know that.
Any other discussion from the council? No? I'll end and say that I think this is outstanding, that what I speak of is that what used to be Kaiser, this is classic Rhode Islandese, right? What used to be Julie's Lunch, what used to be Dunkin' Donuts, whatever, right? So I think it's outstanding that's an area of town that continues to improve. I mean, the town is doing improvements on Shaw's Lane, on Rock Street, not only with actually the utilities doing improvements there, but ultimately with all those roads being repaved and having this part of the community again, as opposed to, in some ways, not the businesses, and this is not a reflection of the businesses that were there, but the buildings were an eyesore in a lot of ways. Again, there were some, and still are some excellent businesses there, but it's an outstanding thing to see improved. So I'm looking forward to it, and I think this is another step to get there. Is there any other conversation or discussion?
This was really shocked. I mean, I was very pleasantly surprised to see a request come in for that project, for a restaurant to open up as soon as, you know, like that you'd be putting in a request for a liquor license. Just because I didn't think it was going to be in that quick of a time frame. So I'm very happy. I was very happy to see that. And I think it's going to be a fantastic project when it's all completed.
Mr. Chairman, to Mary's point, you know, the place is becoming quite vibrant. They're moving along the project pretty fast. I've noticed that the improvements. My daughter lives in the neighborhood, so I get to see the building quite often, drive right by it, and it's interesting to see how quickly they are beginning to move, see the dumpsters clearing out some of the old stuff and replacing with new materials there. So, and the chairman's point, you know, with the road improvement in the area, it's very much appreciated by the neighbors to see a facelift.
We all know someone, I know my grandfather worked there, my uncles worked there. And it was a big part of the community, and it's coming back that way too. So it's outstanding. So any other discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. So Jordan, next step is our next meeting will be first reading. The one after that, second reading will be public hearing and conversation at that point. Okay.
And if I may interject, this is Mike Ursulo. If there isn't already, there'll need to be an application filed by the applicant for the liquor license, because that will have to be advertised and approved simultaneously.
My guess is Jordan may be in here tomorrow to do
that. You will see me tomorrow.
Okay, excellent. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Good luck.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item number I2, and this was a request by the council from November 18th meeting for the appearance of the Bristol County Water Authority Bristol directors.
So I know that all three directors, or I should say, I believe that all three directors are here on the call. I'm just going to take a moment just to refresh everyone's memory. We had some discussion. In fact, an agenda item may have been a consent item that was pulled to talk about, Tony, I think you may have done that, talking about the change in the potential or the potential change for billing for BCWA. Currently it's quarterly, and what was being proposed is a monthly. So that plus there was dialogue about the dams being demolished, about What was the status of the redundant water source with Pawtucket, status of East Providence. So instead of all of that, we all felt it was appropriate to have our directors, welcome all, and I'll introduce you in just a moment, to share just a quick synopsis. And then I thought they can give us a rundown of what's going on, and then I'll open it up to the council to ask questions. And I can see that I see Juan Moscow's name, and I know Gina yep, there's Gina McDonald and Bob Martin. So Chris, if you could add them, thank you, as that happens right now. And I don't know who would like to start first. I can see Georgina McDonald and Bob Martin there. If you want to, I don't know how you wanted to
Sure.
start.
This is Gina, and let me begin.
Well,
If you'd like.
yes, please.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to hit the items that you mentioned. I'm going to talk about pension performance and water rates. And then Juan and Bob are going to talk about dam removals and the treatment plant and the Pawtucket water supply connection.
Thank you.
So we, as you probably know, the Water Authority has a pension fund for older employees who've been there for some time. Newer employees are in a 403 plan. So that is like a 401k plan where it is contributed to by the Water Authority and the employees, but it doesn't create a defined benefit plan. So our remaining pension fund covers the employees who have contributed to it over the years. Eventually it will go out of business when those employees retire. Our water rates are steady. Providence has filed for another substantial rate increase. The Water Authority has filed an appeal to lower the rate. So that will go through the process to determine where that will end up. We anticipate our monthly billing, it's quarterly now, it will change to monthly later in 2021. And we've initiated a rate study to benchmark our rates against other water rates in the area. So let me turn this over. I think that Juan, you're next with dam removals and demolish the obsolete treatment plant.
Gina, before you do that, could you tell us why you are proposing to change to monthly versus quarterly?
Yes, it's to be in line with other types of utilities and permit our customers to budget more effectively. What happens now, particularly in the summer where there's much more water use, is people get a substantial bill at the end of that 3-month period that comes as an unpleasant surprise to many. So that the new water meters will permit us to do two things. One is to bill people monthly with a drive-by as opposed to having to come onto the premises. But the second thing is to give a much better and faster indication of any type of water leak.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to be clear, Gina, this will start as of January of the upcoming year. Am I correct?
No, we're not ready to institute the monthly billing. We anticipate it will be probably midway through 2021 before monthly billing begins, and we'll give people plenty of notice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Mm-hmm.
Juan.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak before the council tonight. I'm going to talk about the dam removal, and I'm going to also talk about some of the history here because I think it's important. There are two reservoirs in Bristol County that are associated with Bristol County. One of them is referred to as the Upper Kickamuit Reservoir, and the other one's the Lower Kickamuit Reservoir. The dams are located, one is on Child Street, and the other one is on Schoolhouse Road, where Serpentine Road comes in there. And we have these two reservoirs. Now, the lower reservoir dates back to 1885. It's old, and so is the dam. The other reservoir, the upper reservoir, that dam was built in the early 1960s, so it's going to be celebrating a 60th birthday very soon. And back in 2010, and this is an important note here, is there was a large rainstorm event that hit Rhode Island and southeastern New England, and there was flooding everywhere. And after that, and because of that flooding, there were a lot of small dams around New England that were built for industrial purposes, probably going back to the early 1800s, that failed. And everybody took quite a bit of notice of that. And the State Department of Environmental Management, which had a dam evaluation group within the organization, but was kind of dormant, took on a new life. And they went out and actually inspected every dam in Rhode Island. I think there's maybe about 800 of them, believe it or not. And so the 2 dams that we have were inspected. And they found that our dams had a considerable number of problems. And in 2014, they cited the Bristol County Water Authority for having these substandard dams. Now, keep in mind that these dams are on a small river, not a large flow, not a large amount of volume behind the river, so they don't pose a big threat to the public, but they still were substandard dams because they were built a considerable time ago. And so we were required to do an evaluation of the dams to determine what was wrong with them and what we would do about them. And in doing this, we had really 2 choices. One is take the dam down, which is actually a very popular thing these days to restore rivers back to their natural habitat. And the other was to fix them. And the evaluation that we did, and our consultants did, really came down to the risk associated with having the dams, because the cost to repair them or the cost to remove them were basically the same, in the same ballpark. So we decided that it's in our best interest really to take the dams down because it will address a lot of problems. Number one, the issue of having substandard dams, of course, but Serpentine Road and Schoolhouse roads are used for emergency access, and many times they flood because of the culverts in that area that come from the upper dam are completely crushed, submerged, virtually non-functional. And the other issue that we have has to do with the water supply. We stopped using the treatment plant back in, I think it was 2011. We shut it down because the treatment plant was functionally obsolete. But the reservoirs are also functionally obsolete in Bristol County as well. We have a situation where on the lower reservoir, and actually extending all the way up to the upper reservoir, of saltwater intrusion. When we have tidal changes, we get salt water into the lower reservoir, and it does make its way up to the upper reservoir. And we have been doing a lot of water quality monitoring in the lower reservoir, and we are seeing that it is starting to turn to a saline condition. So we've made the decision that we need to take these dams down and bring them back to what they probably were back in the 1850s, and have a more natural situation with the river in that area. We had, it's good timing that you asked for this meeting, because we just had a public hearing about a week and a half ago, and that public hearing was recorded, and you can watch the presentation that was made. It's on our website. It's actually on YouTube, and you can watch it. It's about an hour and a half long. It's very detailed, a lot of good information there. Several members of the public did speak, mostly neighbors, land owners, farmers, or residential property owners asking questions about how it might impact their individual properties. And there were people who spoke out in support of it because they were looking forward to being able to kayak or canoe on the river. So that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a question for Juan or Jordina.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Juan, I was just curious on phase 1 with the connection to the East Providence. I was just curious how the dam removal is going to work into the timeline between these 2 projects, because it seems quite like a large project on these. Could you tell me?
Yeah, Bob Martin is going to talk about the phase 1 Pawtucket project, but it's not going to pose any difficulties in management of 2 different projects. We usually hire engineering consulting firms to do the on-site management of the projects, and we do have staff that can also work with them. One of the great things about the dam project is that we have a really good, very close relationship with Save the Bay, which is very surprising that a public agency and Save the Bay have a good relationship, because that hadn't always been the case back in the old days with Bristol County. And what they're doing is they've been helping us get funding for the project and being very supportive in putting the applications together as well. So we have a lot of people working. We have relationships with DOTs, who's going to be redoing the road in the area, and CRMC, who's working closely with us, as well as DEM. So we have a lot of interest, a lot of people involved, as well as I should also mention that there's some federal agencies that we're also working with who are going to be providing some money for us. So I think we'll be able to handle those two projects, and they'll overlap, but it won't be a problem.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Juan. Bob.
Good evening, everyone. Congratulations, everyone, on your elections in another couple of years. But
thank you.
What we're going to talk about lastly here before your questions are, there are two phases to our water supply. The initial one, phase one, is a connection between BCWA and the East Providence water systems. That's a line that's being put in. It's already, the design effort has been completed. We've awarded a contract to CB Utilities to have construction begin in 2021. Not absolutely certain of the duration of it, but it's a short, relatively short construction period to do that. All of the permitting and easements and so on have been completed. So that will be able to, if East Providence has an issue, we can backfill them. If we have an issue at BCWA, they could supply us with water, and we wouldn't have any temporary pipelines being established at that time. So that in itself will be done. It's a major help to both city, the town of East Providence, the city of East Providence, as well as BCWA customers. The second piece that's going to happen is that, in my opinion, and I believe the board's opinion, a need for a redundant water supply is necessary. East Providence and BCWA rely on the Providence water supply for all of its water today. A connection to East Providence, through East Providence to Pawtucket, is going to be called phase two. The initial lines for where we're going to put it and some of the soil analysis and so on and so forth and surveys are being performed right now. Expect in 2022 to have a completed design to be able to start construction. It is a big project. It can be funded. We feel that the funding for it will be available through, I'm uncertain if it's going to be bonds or however it's going to go out, but it will be funded. Today in the planning stages, there's a minor discussions going on. We're trying to get more discussions between BCWA and the East Providence Council and political side to have them become a player in the entire thing and participate in the cost of the design as well as the construction. That's an ongoing thing right now, but we're coming close to sometime in 2021, I believe, we would have to make a decision whether or not East Providence plays a role in this. But that is necessary so we would be able to draw water from both sites all the time. And the more, if you say we draw 5 million gallons a day, you can select which side you're going to continually need to draw water from both, but the guy who gives you the better rate you'll draw more from. So that's the forward-looking thing for a redundant water supply.
Okay. So I'm going to start off with questions, and actually first with a statement, and that I continue to be of a mindset that giving up ownership of the water that we currently have, and I heard everything you said, is not something that I believe is correct. And I certainly heard everything, and I believe that the dams were substandard. But I truly believe that giving up on water that we own, and certainly we don't have to get into the particulars at the moment, is we can do all of these steps. I believe the steps that we're taking are good steps, and redundant water source is extremely important. I do not want to see us give up on that ownership. And even if we let the dams go at this point, with an opportunity, depending on what the years bring us, we may need them in the future. We never know what's going to happen. But I commend you all on your clear information that you just shared, telling us what's going on. You answered our questions. I also believe that what would be very helpful is that maybe the three directors could come up with a nice outline of what's necessary for the dollars, and then have that come through us, and then we in turn will send it to our reps and senators to get some much needed assistance on the state level. I know all three directors have expressed this separately, that we should get assistance from the state. We have 4 communities that benefit from redundancy if we were to make this happen, or when we make this happen, not if. So I believe that there's too many people at risk if it doesn't happen. It's a basic need of life: food, water, and shelter. And this is a major need. And I believe that we should reach out to our reps and senators for assistance in some way, whether it's a copay 50-50 or something, maybe more, who knows? But you don't get if you don't ask. So, and I think best coming from the three of you with a clear idea of timelines and need, and then through us working all together as the elected officials. So I'd like to open up to my colleagues, though. Council?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Aaron.
This is Aaron Lay. Thanks everybody for the presentation. I had the chance to sit in on the public hearing on the dam removal. So I've been paying some pretty close attention to what's been going on there and with the redundancy. I just have 2 questions. My first question I think was already answered, but it seems to me that there would be that opportunity to save some money in the long run if we did have that redundant water source where if you do have the 2 sources, you should be able to pit those water suppliers against one another. I'm not sure if that's possible, but Bob, maybe you can speak to that in a little bit more detail. I don't know what the kind of the regulatory environment is that governs water suppliers, and I imagine that kind of impinges a little bit on what we're able to do with them, but it might be something I think that's worth talking about, because anytime that we can slow down the growth of water rates or anything like that, I think that our ratepayers are going to benefit from that. The other thing that I wanted to ask you about that I didn't feel was answered during the public hearing on the dam removal was the abutters to the dams, people that live along Serpentine Road. And I've actually been out to these dams. I actually went out with BCWA and inspected them a couple of years back. So I understand that there's maintenance costs with these that get passed on to ratepayers and everything like that as well. But one of the things that I'd like to ask you to maybe clarify a little bit, I think this might be for you, Juan, is what are some of the downstream benefits to Bristol for dam removal? I know a lot of the concerns came from people that were kind of in that Warren area, but I wanted to know if there would be any benefits to like the Mount Hope Bay or anything like that, that we would benefit from over here in Bristol.
I'll try for the first one, Aaron. The discussions right now as we try to get into Pawtucket and have two water supplies. I don't think you're going to get free water from anyone, but there is a mixing thing that will happen. We'll have to, as we blend the two waters together, you have to ensure that, I believe it's the pH level of the water has to maintain. And today they're off by a little bit, and BCWA is totally aware of that. And they plan on making a mixing station for it. But it's a question of how many million gallons do you use a day from the BCWA area? Plus, if you were to add East Providence in there. Now, would you take, dependent upon the rate structure, would you take a majority? You need to take water through both pipes to maintain the flows and not to have any tuberculation, I believe is the word they use, by not using the water pipes. So they would both flow, but you would take a majority of your water from the vendor who chose to give you the best rate. That's how you're gonna, it won't play one against the other because you need both of them.
Bob,
And to answer the other question, the rates for both Pawtucket and Providence are set by the PUC.
Could I just ask a question as a follow-up to that? Because I've asked this question in years past. And the answer that I got from people, people at BCWA was that we had to take a certain, like, are we contractually obligated to take a certain amount from Providence though? Because I'd asked the question in terms of if we could get better rates from, Pawtucket, for example. And I was told that we had to still take like the minimum, or what, notwithstanding the issue about the pipes, I understand that, but that we were going to be obligated to take whatever we were contracted to take water from Providence. Can you address that further? Is that not the case?
I think that's an annual process. I don't know, Mary, whether we're actually contractually obligated. At this point, we have no choice but to take all of our water from Providence. If we had an operational connection with Pawtucket, then as Bob and Juan both said, we would need to take from both in order to keep the pipes active, but we could certainly skew it in the direction with the lower cost water. So there's no long-term contract that says we must take a certain amount of water from Providence.
I believe there is a contract, but I can't tell you because I don't know what the terms are in terms of how much water we have to take over what period of time and so forth. But keep in mind that the contract that we have with Providence was set before there was a Pawtucket option. And so I think that situation will change. It'll be something the attorneys will be chatting about.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
And if I could, Aaron, you asked about downstream benefits to Bristol. The two reservoirs are located completely in Warren. They're upstream from the town line of Bristol and Warren, I don't know, by a mile or something like that. And so is there any physical benefit? I don't think so. Is there a cultural benefit over the long term? I think so. People typically put in kayaks and canoes down in the Narrows and kayak up the Kickamuit River, and then they have to stop because there's a dam and there's no way to get through there. They will be able to go continue in the future up the lower through the lower Kickamuit Reservoir, and then continue on into the upper Kickamuit Reservoir. At the hearing last week, and I've listened to the video a few times, the question actually came up is if they would be able to pass through the new culverts that were going to be built. The answer was that they're very large and that there wouldn't be a problem getting a kayak through a culvert. So it'll be something new in a recreational sense that the region will benefit from.
And Juan, it would also be a benefit environmentally?
Yes.
That's why Save the Bay is in favor of it.
Thank you.
Any
I-
other questions
I-
from the council?
I wanted to ask about the East Providence. I think it was Bob that you mentioned, still trying to get East Providence political people involved. That's something that's been going on, I think, since probably 2012 or since whenever this idea first came up. And there've been, there were lots of issues, but there's been a lot of movement in, I think the movement towards to a mayor as opposed, an elected mayor as opposed to a town manager. Is it still difficulty getting access to them, or is it a money issue, or are they in favor? Or are you still having a hard time getting anywhere to even meet with the political figures in East Providence?
I believe that the meeting has been held with the new mayor, who is in favor of this, and he is trying to get it before the council to do that. As everyone knows, East Providence is financially strapped. They always reference that they're building a new high school, but this would be a long-term type effort to get them involved with it. It's a question, BCWA is going to go forward with this plan, whether East Providence wants to support it or not. The question then becomes, what size pipe do you want to put in? You need a pipe size that would feed both East Providence and BCWA, or if they don't want to participate in it, we'll make a pipe size relative to BCWA's needs. It is trying to get forth to the council there to explain where we're at and what we're doing. We need to describe to them where the proposed pipeline is going to be, down what streets, and how we plan to do everything. And that's the design effort in surveying that's going on today. But to date, they have not come forth to the table to say, we would like to play and share, is where we're at right now.
I just find it surprising that it's almost 10 years in the making to get before town council or city council. That sounds a little preposterous. I mean, I know it's been happening because we've been hearing it for years. But I mean,
Yeah,
how can it be to
Mary,
have-
I don't think the problem is getting before them. The problem is really getting them to make a decision. And as a board, we've made the decision that with them or without them, we're going forward. Obviously, it would make much more sense for us and for them. They're reliant on a single pipeline, much older than ours, under the bay, to go forward with this. And realistically, the state should play a role here. The state really should say that and induce them with some participation in paying for it, because ultimately, if East Providence's water supply fails, it's going to be a state problem too.
And I was going to mention that almost the exact same thing that Gina mentioned, but with a specific knowledge of a program that used to exist. The Water Resources Board used to fund what was called a community interconnection program, where they provided additional funding to 2 or more communities that interconnected their water systems, with the thinking that if one of the systems went down, they could get water from another community. And I have to believe that those funds no longer exist, but the concept does, and the program used to. And so I think one of the things that could be done here is to resurrect that program through talking with our state legislators and the governor's office about doing this to benefit a major portion of the state.
Well, if anything ever happened if they did not go in it and we went it alone, it is the issue of the size of the pipe. But then if there's a failure on their end, then it would render all of us in big trouble, because then our pipe would be too small to deliver the water that we would need, or it would all have to be diverted to East Providence. I mean, it's
No, we would own the pipe, Mary. If they don't participate in paying for it, they would not be able to access it except surplus to our needs.
Okay. Any other questions for our directors? Tim?
Georgina, Bob, and Juan, thank you so much for the information. I just have a question. While campaigning, over and over again, people kept saying, why is my water keep increasing and increasing? I kept telling them there's sort of like a rate schedule that we've been doing. Is there an updated rate increase schedule, or what can I tell residents about? Because they keep asking, why does my water keep going up?
Well, the water authority has just finished paying for the bond to build a pipeline under the bay, and now we're devoting dollars to repairing infrastructure that was neglected for years and years.
Mhm.
And we are doing a rate study that will benchmark our rates against all others in the state. So you will be able to look at that and say our rates are quite competitive.
And that rate study, I can just reach out to you for, or get that right off the website, or?
Well, we should have that, I would say, in the next 90 days. And once we have it, we'll certainly send it to all of you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Any other comments and questions from the council?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just
Go
very briefly, I'd just like to thank Gina, Bob, and Juan for coming before us and giving us the report, very precise and very timely. So thank you. And thank you for your service.
I agree. I think well put. Thank you all for your efforts. Thank you for your service, as Tony said. Unless there's any other discussion, I just need a motion to receive and file.
So move.
Yep. So I'll second Tony's motion.
So motion made by Tony, seconded by Tim to receive and file with thanks. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carry. Thank you all.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is item I3, and this is from the Assistant Town Solicitor Goins in regard to the ratification of charter amendments. And here we have draft legislation and resolution in support is attached.
Mike?
Yes, this is actually a pro forma action. As you know, the electors of the town voted to change the charter at the election in November. And what we need to do is petition the members of the General Assembly to have the amendments ratified so it be recognized at the state level. This is the way we normally proceed whenever charter amendments are voted on by the electors.
So, and our discussion earlier, Mike, was just saying that this is kind of a, what did you call it? A belt and suspenders approach to it, right? This is to make sure that no laws in the future are passed that are in direct violation, if you will.
Or directly contradict these. That's exactly right.
Thank you. Okay. Council pleasure?
Motion to approve the ratification of charter amendments and to send to the General Assembly for review.
Is there a second?
Tony, second.
Tim made the motion to approve that or ratify, seconded by Tony. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
The next item on the agenda is from Fire Chief DeMello requesting for authorization to proceed with the replacement of rescue number 2.
Mr. Administrator, did you want to start with this or can I go right to the chief? Chief DeMello, welcome back.
Yeah. Evening again. So I'll try to keep this real short and simple. So Rescue 2 is about 9 years old, getting close to its useful life end. And about 3 months ago, we essentially the engine blew and went bad. So unfortunately, the engine blew. Fortunately, we were kind of getting close to going into our budget session. It was in the capital plan, the fire department capital plan this year anyways. So what I'm looking for tonight is authorization to proceed and essentially order the truck, which will do a couple of things. One is it takes about 6 months for a truck to be built. Second, it would also allow the use of a loaner or recently trade-in vehicle at no additional cost. which would get us back to our 3-vehicle complement, which is very important in maintaining our response capabilities.
So Chief, there's no request for money spent at this point, just authorization to go ahead and take the next step to order the vehicle, right?
That is correct. There might be a slight requirement a few months down the road for a prepay on the chassis if they're still doing that. I'll get some more information, but other than that, usually the full payment is required once you receive the vehicle.
And that dollar figure would be covered by funds that you have in your department?
No, that's where I'm coming to you. That would have to be included in the capital plan in this next upcoming budget session.
So to be clear, just that we'll call it the down payment, if you will. Is that out of budget money that you have? And what dollars are we talking about here?
Right. So the total cost of the truck is they've been getting more and more expensive as years go on. So it's trending around 330,000 for the, yep. They're getting up there. And a lot of it is due to safety improvements and different requirements that have come into play over the years, which are all good things, but certainly raise the cost of the vehicle. The down payment, I would have to look at some of our funds and see what we could come up with that, if that's even required.
Okay.
Again, the prepayment on the chassis, we had taken advantage of that because it was usually a cost savings if you paid for the chassis of the truck, which would be around 70,000, give or take a few thousand. So if we had to come up with that early, it's usually to take the advantage of a cost savings. But the balance wouldn't be due until the receipt of the vehicle.
We have the treasurer on, Julie Gosher. Julie, could you, I don't know if I didn't know what the dollar, and my colleagues didn't know what the dollar figures potentially were. So it sounds that at this moment that nothing is due, at least to take the next step, and there's potentially a $70,000, you called it a chassis payment or down payment on the chassis, if you will. Are those dollar figures potentially available from the fire department's budget, or if they're not, where would those funds potentially come from?
So we will be going over the 5-year capital plan and in January, myself and the administrator and the department heads. So I'll have a better sense of all of the projects at that time. As far as current funds available, I'd have to sit with the chief and see. He has some additional funds outside of the general fund, and there might be money in there, but it would just take a little bit of sitting down with the chief and kind of brainstorming and looking at what funds he has available. Perhaps the council could approve it contingent upon the availability of the funds after I meet with the chief and the administrator.
I, for one, have no issue with taking the next step. I mean, we need what we need, and I'm sure my colleagues are too, in full support. I just wanted to make sure that we were budgeting appropriately for those dollars. I just open up to my colleagues. What's your thoughts, and what would you like to do from here? Good, Mary.
Good questions. Julie, I mean, we could borrow from ourselves as we've done in the past, right? I mean, we could pay that down payment and then in the new budget, pay ourselves back.
We could, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing to the chief is, would you spend the 40,000 and this becomes the third vehicle, or is this older than the third vehicle?
No, normally we have 3 ambulances. This would bring us back to the 3 ambulance level. So operationally, it's important. One, we have 2 trucks on the road pretty regularly for emergency calls. And the third truck sometimes also on the road for emergency calls. But really, the third truck is a big role if I have to send one out for maintenance, because then we're only down to 1 vehicle, which makes it pretty difficult. We usually have to borrow a truck or rely on mutual aid at that point.
I understand that, and I certainly support this because we need it. But I guess my question is, does this, so for lack of a better term, get traded in, or sold back to them, or does this become the third truck, or is it fix it up and it becomes the third truck if needed, or is that third truck that we have, which is now probably the second truck, in better shape than this one?
No, so the one that has the blown engine, they'd be willing to take it in trade. What we would get for it would probably not be much, but it would get it out of our hands, and we just would have 3 vehicles. That would be it.
So fixing this one up wouldn't be any better than the third vehicle we already have.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Any other conversation from council?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the request.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion made by Tony to approve the request to take a next step to proceed with replacement of Rescue 2, seconded by Tim. Discussion?
Chief, I just wanted to ask you a quick question in regards to a replacement schedule. If you could just remind me, maybe we are doing one with you as far as the fire department, but I just wanted to know if we are. And do we need to implement one to better budget for these coming up?
No, we have the replacement schedule pretty much planned for. And like I said, this truck was coming up to be replaced anyways.
Okay.
Unfortunately, with the engine being blown, it just economically didn't make sense to spend that type of money to repair it. You know, that was the point. Since we were coming close to replacing it anyways, we're probably just better off replacing it with a new vehicle.
Mr. Administrator.
Fellow council members, my question is what I'm hearing is proceed with the purchase, but the funding source is still in question. So what I'm asking is that the fire department be allowed to use a one-time fund balance appropriation to be paid back and to be reimbursed during the next budget process. This is most likely going to be part of a bond. It's an expensive piece of equipment, but it's one of our most key and important vehicles. And Chief, feel free to elaborate. We are down to 2 rescue vehicles. When one of those breaks down, we're down to 1. And as the chief said, there are a good number of multiple calls coming in, especially during the day. We're relying on other communities at times for mutual aid, providing mutual aid, and we're also receiving mutual aid. So I don't think this is one of those things that we have much of a choice. I think we have to keep 3 good running, well-maintained rescue vehicles. They're so critical. When you need them, they need to be able to start up and get to the scene and transport to the hospital. So what I'm asking for is, it's not easy to do, but I don't think we have much of a choice. It was an unexpected breakdown. We do a one-time fund balance appropriation. This next budget process, we pay that money back, and that would be part of the motion.
I agree with it.
I concur with that. I support that.
Okay, so the motion that was made by Tony. So Tony, why don't you, so I'm going to assume that that's now an amended motion, including the administrator's suggestion.
Correct.
Seconded by Tim again with,
Correct.
you agree?
So
Okay.
seconding the amended motion.
Any additional discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Good luck, Chief. We look forward to seeing this when it's done. So
Thank you.
Only from the outside, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. I was just going to say not in the, well, in the inside, but not going
You
anywhere.
can look at it, but not need it.
There you go.
God willing,
Thank-
right?
Thanks, Chief.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is agenda item I-5, and this is the town administrator contenti regarding the sale of 10 Naomi Street.
Mr. Administrator.
Thank you. So in keeping with our mission of consolidating, being more efficient, we're still looking at our facilities and our buildings. And it's important for us to remind ourselves that we have 22 buildings that we maintain. It's 22. It's an awful lot of facilities. There is overhead to maintain these buildings. There's liability issues with the buildings. And so one of the things we would like to do is take the 2-bedroom, 1-bath house that's on Naomi Street that the town owns, number 10 Naomi, subdivide the lot, retain the property, a little over half of that acre, and use that for stormwater capacity, holding capacity, and sell the house. And we just think that the market is pretty good right now, and to put that house on the tax rolls right now would probably be a good time to do so. So we look at right now with the current reval, it's at about $294 for the house, so that's over $4,000 a year in tax revenues plus the sewer use fee of $530, which we don't collect now. So that's my recommendation. And again, that would be to lighten the load a little bit on our facilities. We don't use it. We rent it out. We used our marketing company to rent it out. The research we did on it, it was purchased before the school district regionalized in the event that a school needed to be built in that area. However, the area is very, very wet in that surrounding area. And this project would fit very nicely with the stormwater water management plan that community development is doing for that floodplain up in that area. So my recommendation would be to do an RFP for the highest bidder on the house. We've just secured an appraisal company to get a market appraisal of what the house is worth. So we would use that as the base bid and advertise for request for proposals, sealed bids, and see what we could get for the house.
So if I may, just to add a couple of things to that is, if this council believed we wanted to sell the property, which I'm in agreement on for, I think the controlling how many buildings we have. We don't need this building, as stated by the administrator. It made sense at the time. It was good use. In fact, it still makes sense because that wet area over there continues to be a place for stormwater to collect. I think the subdivision would then keep this property, the lot size, in keeping with the other property sizes, so about 15,000 square feet. So, but I know that my colleagues separately had shared some concerns about the water, and water was brought up a couple of times here. And Mr. Solicitor, I think one of the things, if this council wanted to take the next step, we want to make sure that the sale was very clear that there is water concerns over there and that we would indemnify the town with water issues, just to be upfront with it and say there is water concerns over there, and I guess caveat emptor, right? Buyer beware.
Yeah, there would be a disclosure requirement by law, yes.
Okay, all right. Colleagues?
Steve, I'm sorry, go ahead, Tony.
No, Mary, go ahead.
Just why would we do an RFP as opposed to just putting it out with a realtor? And I mean, property in Bristol is pretty hot, and some of them are going over the amounts that are being asked for.
I think for starters, we would have to secure a realtor, and I don't know how to be fair about that. So we would have to maybe do an RFP for a realtor, then we get the realtor, and then the realtor obviously is going to take a percentage off of the sale of the house. So I suppose we could either way, but I think we can also reject the bids if they come in low, or we could, you know.
I'm just curious. I mean, it's fine as long as we can reject it if it comes in really low. I mean, you know, because we want to get as much as we can for that.
Mike, you look like you want to weigh in. I'm sure
I'm familiar with the sale of properties in other communities, and generally they do begin with trying to sell it on their own, to not only to save the realtor's fee, but also, Mary, as you just confirmed, if you don't like the bids, you can simply reject them. And at that point, if you decide you want to bring a professional realtor in, you could do so.
So it's a 1-2 step. If step one is not successful, go to step two, kind of thing.
I also, this is Steve Contenti. I also did speak with our property marketing company. They don't market properties for sale, just for rent. So we were unable to use our own marketing company. One of our other request part of this is, again, in an effort to consolidate, be more efficient and save money over the long term, I ask that any of the proceeds be used towards the continued refurbishment of Wally School. And it would be a way for us to continue to improve that building, get it back open again without becoming a burden on the tax rate or the taxpayers. So it would be a way for us to fund that project and keep that moving along.
Mr. Chairman, Tony, I move that we support the administrator on his endeavor to sell the property and then carry the funds over to the restoration of Wally School.
Thank you. Is there a second? I'm going to ask Mike a question if there's a second.
Yeah, so I'll second the motion.
Okay, so Tony made the motion to support the sale of 10 Naomi Street. But Mike, what's specifically, do we want to give the administrator the, for lack of a better term, the flexibility to go through as was proposed, a step 1 RFP, step 2, so kind of act in the best interest of the town to sell the property?
Sure. What, Tony, why don't you just amend your motion to simply state that through the RFP process, and that way Steve has the direction to do it clearly, and then depending on how that works out, you'll all decide at some future point.
And then also that you mentioned that the proceeds to be used for the continued refurbishment of Wally School. So, Tony.
And I'm all for, you've stated nicely, and I support that. I'll take that as the motion.
Okay. And Tim?
Yep, I'll second the amendment motion. Yep.
Thank you. Mr. Administrator, is there anything else?
One more point for information. This will be on the calendar for the planning board. It's a minor subdivision, so approximately 26,000 square feet will be turned over to the town, won't be sold again. And I just want to be clear, it's a significant part of that property will be retained by the town. So that has to go before the planning board.
Excellent. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a quick question for Steve. Steve,
Certainly.
The building itself, is it good structurally? Everything good on the home? And
it is good. We've been staying on top of the maintenance, and it's actually in very, very good shape right now.
Excellent.
So
Good. I just don't want any liability coming back to us on it.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Any other discussion? Okay. Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and the members of the council, the next item on the agenda is item I6, and this is Elizabeth Bruto, board member, Friends of Bristol Animal Shelter, requesting to schedule a council workshop.
So this item and the next item is exactly that. So we could spend more time without the other agenda items or people waiting. So have a special workshop potentially for both this and the next item. No discussions necessary right now because obviously we'll have a workshop specifically for these items. And I would assume maybe we can refer it to the clerk, and I'll work with the clerk and all of you to come up with a days of, and of course with Friends of the Animal Shelter to work out a day that will work for all of us. Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
This is Tim. Motion to approve the workshop scheduling with the chairman and the town clerk.
Okay. Motion made by Tim, seconded by Mary. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item I7, and this is from the Director of Community Development, Diane Williamson, requesting for an extension of the meeting date for the proposed bicycle connector route until February 17th, 2020.
Diane, I see you on the call. Did you want to add anything? Hello.
Hello. No, this is really just for your information to let you know that we're going to be doing a little bit more work with the neighbors and the visualization as you had requested, and we're going to take it into February for the next presentation back to the council.
To give you some more time to reach out to neighbors.
Yes, to reach out to neighbors. We have some workshops that we want to be scheduling in January. And so we want to, again, have enough time to do that and report back to you.
Excellent. What's this council's pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to continue the item to the February 17th council meeting.
Tony, second.
Motion made by Tim to continue to February 17th, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item I8, and this is from Nancy Kellner, the interim co-director from Rogers Free Library, requesting to schedule the council workshop.
Same as the other. So we just have a motion, maybe if the council's okay with it, to refer to the clerk, and I'll work with her to schedule a day.
Motion to refer to the chairman and the clerk to work out, to schedule a workshop.
Second.
Motion made by Tim, seconded by Tony to refer to schedule that workshop. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is item J. We have bills and expenditures. We have two RPFs. The first RFPs. The first RFP is number 946, and this is for the 2021 statistical update revaluation. And we received two bids for that one. One is from Northeast Revaluation Group in the amount of $128,870. And we also received one from Vision Government Solutions in the amount of $184,700.
We're already at that time again, aren't we? My goodness, that happened fast. didn't it?
Could I ask a question, Mr. Chairman, about this?
Of course.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I imagine it would impact the net, not this budget that we'll be doing in a few months, but the one after that. But given the situation with COVID and the recovery and businesses and people who have, may have lost their jobs, I mean, is this something that, I know the pain comes sooner or later, that is worth looking at putting it off for a year, given the circumstances? I'm just.
Can we? I
Yeah.
didn't think we could.
Mary, the only way you could do that, and this has happened once before in Bristol's history while I was solicitor, we'd have to go to the legislature and we'd have to ask for a bill to be passed in order to make that happen. And I think it's a little late to do that now for this one, but it would require legislative action because it's mandated by state law.
Right, but do you think that the legislature might be taking a look at this across the board, for example?
Perhaps it perhaps
Is it
could.
worth bringing it up to our legislators as something they might want to look into as a statewide issue? I mean, they have been relatively inactive, so they'll be going back. I assume they'll be going back in January.
I think the problem is we're on a timetable here with regard to the bid to begin that process.
I think
Unless
the cost savings is to us. Certainly, your point is not lost, but I think the cost savings would be to us because wherever those, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but if the reval changes values of homes, we still have X amount that we're collecting for tax. Again, I know you know all of this. But certainly we can reach out to our reps and senators and express this and see what opportunities there are, because it's money we're spending that we don't need to, or potentially wouldn't need to if they opted to make any changes.
I think that, we could proceed on parallel tracks. I mean, we could continue moving forward, but I think these are the kinds of things that I believe the legislature needs to look at in terms of both the municipal governments and where they can help out in that realm, as well as the average, rank, the citizens of Rhode Island and of all of our communities. I mean, there's got to be relief somewhere. I think there's a lot of hope that the federal government was going to pour all this money potentially into cities and towns. I'm not sure that's going to happen. And so, I mean, I don't, sometimes relief like this may be a little bit easier than something to come up with actual cash in hand for schools or whatever the case may be. So I think that we should at least pose the question of looking at examples of where the legislature can help the local citizens and the municipalities potentially. Like, I understand about the taxes, and I understand that, the rate goes down, the values go up and all of that. I get it. And we've been through this many times. It's just sometimes, the perspective or the perception of what's going on, like, just every time you turn around, the public is being hit with something else. or local governments are being hit with something else. And I just wonder about that as a potential option. But I don't see why, if we have to go forward, then we can still be contracting with a company. I mean, they would just have to wait a year if the legislature changed any of this. And
There's
not
nothing
necessarily
wrong with
for us,
asking, Mary. So
not necessarily just for us, but in general. I'm speaking like for the whole, the whole state, like whatever towns are in the same cycle that we're in.
there's nothing wrong with asking. I think we should.
Well, I mean, having lived through exactly what Mike pointed out before, when we had to go at that, this was about 6 years ago that we had to go before the legislature to postpone that, but ultimately we had to go through the pain. So I'm not so sure that it would be beneficial to postpone or delay. Plus, this is a statistical, not a full eval. So there is quite a difference between those two. So I'm not so sure it would be worthwhile spinning the wheels on this one.
So
But
why don't
that's
we do
just my
this?
thought, because I'm actually burning the candle on two ends. I'm dealing with this in Little Compton as well. We're going through the same process.
Aaron.
Mr. Chairman, I just had a quick question about this, and Tony's discussion kind of brought something to my mind. But when we're doing our revaluation, no matter what, there's going to be some people that aren't going to benefit from not doing it at all. There's going to be some people who, could afford to have their taxes lowered, in fact. Whereas I've done a lot of work to my house, I might be
appreciate it. So when the taxes come out, we appreciate your contributing that.
a higher evaluation, whereas the burden on somebody who hasn't been doing that work might be a little bit lower. And so I guess, Tony, what your comment brought to mind was that, when you guys did put that off for a year, there were some people that didn't end up benefit from having that being put off for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you never win anyway you do it completely. I'm just seeing like the property values, and it may be worse in a year, but the property values of what's being sold in downtown Bristol is pretty much astronomical. I mean, I don't know if you follow it, but it is astronomical. I mean, you can get a 3-family house or a 2-family house for, $700,000-800,000. I mean, there's a house down the street on State Street for 1.13 million. And that is going to, no matter when we do it, it's going to dramatically impact residents here, and that's going to be what's going to be reflected in the statistical evaluation, eval or reval. And so I just think that there's going to be a lot of pain and hurt. And if there's people living in these units that are, have been unemployed, or whatever the case may be, that's why I raised that. I mean, and Bristol's, the property values in Rhode Island in general are going up very quickly, certainly in Bristol. But when you look in the downtown historic district, I mean, it astounds me. It just astounds me when I see what the properties are being sold for. So that's one reason I raised that.
So what's this council's pleasure? Typically, what we would do is refer to the administrator, but with Mary's suggestion, what would the council like to do?
Well, I would move that we go forward, as I said, on parallel tracks. So I would refer to the administrator and continue that down the path that we have. But keep in mind that, we need to look at the big picture as we go forward in our own budget and where the state can play a role.
So I heard Mary make a motion that we want to refer to the administrator to act in the best interest of the town, and also do a dual track of reaching out to our reps and senators to find out what opportunities are there to potentially push this off for, and not just for Bristol, for anybody who's in this cycle. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. I mean, I understand Tony's point, and we may be better off, like, even if it's a few months out. I mean, just even if there's a possibility, like, I think my big question is, what is the state going to do for the local municipalities and the local citizenry? And I think that remains to be seen. And this is just one of those potential things. We look at mandates, unfunded mandates all the time. And this is one of those things that, that's going to be coming up as people are hopefully going to be recovering, because the recovery is not going to be like, get your shot and you're all back to hunky dory, like we're all back to living like before COVID. It's going to take a while for everything to build back up, to be able to be out in public, to have that herd immunity. I mean, it's going to be a lot of restrictions still for probably another 6 months, if not more. So I just think that there's things that we all need to look at and think about what it is that we want to ask the state for relief on. And even if we don't move forward on it because it may be better, we may be worse off doing that. What are those topics?
Mr. Chairman, just the thing, we have to keep in mind that this is not going to happen next month or the next 6 months. This will not be done, not be completed until December 31st. So we have ample time to really weigh out, and yeah, I agreed. If we can certainly, pursue the 2 tracks and see what some options may be out there. However, we need to keep in mind there will be no impact to at least another 12 months.
Well, like 18,
so
your point, it's actually 18 months, wouldn't it?
18 months, actually. So with that being said, I would suggest that we should continue in a path and just check out things as we move along,
Right. So I heard that motion from Mary. Is there a second to that effect?
I'll second that to refer to the town administrator and the treasurer for the best interest of the town.
Any other discussion from this council? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim? Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, the next item on the agenda is J2, and this is for bid number 949. This is for tax service software, and we received 1 bid, and that was from Vision Government Solutions in the amount of $39,800.
So would this be the tax assessor? They just kind of give us a quick rundown of what this is and why it's being proposed. Michelle?
Sure, I can do that. We currently use tax collection software that was implemented in 1998. It's very outdated. It's a little clunky. Vision is the software provider for that collection software currently. They had decided to upgrade their software and no longer support our old original version. So either way, we had to go out to bid on this. Didn't really know what to expect. There's not very many collection softwares out there for Rhode Island. So this particular software for Vision will include tax administration software, which is our billing software. We aren't currently in the need of tax administration software, but they are not providing their collection software without the administration software as well.
Okay. So because this is probably obvious, but because we got 1 bid, we have an opportunity to negotiate with them and also look in the greater market for other opportunities, correct?
Correct.
So, okay. All right. What's this council's pleasure?
So just for clarification, is there a contract with them? Do we have a contract with them?
I don't believe so. I think it's, I think our contract is out with them for the current software. Julie may need to confirm that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was just curious to see, usually we sign a contract with them just to know what their software updates are and also, what their services are going to be. And also we want to just compare them with the other competitors we're going to be looking at as well. If you're saying there's not many out there, but there are some others, we should take a look at those and also set up demos, see what's best fits for town of Bristol, for us.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Great point.
I would have to say, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Tony? If I would have to say, if this goes back to 1998, the likelihood is that a contract has expired. And as to Michelle's point, they do no longer provide the updates for the software. So it's probably outdated, period.
And we'll verify that. So what's this council's pleasure? We need to refer. So.
Move that we refer to the administrator and the treasurer. I mean, the administrator and rather department head involved to act in the best interest of the community. So our finance director and our treasurer and our tax assessor.
Is there a second? Is there a motion to refer to the administrator and appropriate department head, seconded by Tony, made by Mary? Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is Agenda K. This is for special reports, and we have Alan C. Klepper from the Barrington Director of Bristol County Water Authority with a monthly report.
I would say let's receive in file since we had a great report given by our directors already.
Second.
Yep.
Motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary to receive and file. Any discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Confused myself on that one. And I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, and the next item on the agenda, and I'm not sure, is the town solicitor. I don't know if you have
Was
the items.
CC1? Oh, no, you didn't have anything, Mike, did you?
I didn't. So I think we would go to the consent agenda items that were asked to be pulled.
Yes, first was CC1. Give everybody a minute to get that.
Yep. You want me to jump in, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
All right, great. On CC1, the reason I pulled it, Julie, this is really for you. On the revenue and expenditure statement, I noticed some of the balance and budget percents are the ones that are over 100%. I was just curious if you could just take a look at, we don't need to go through them tonight. Any of them that are over 100% and greater, I was just curious if you could just write up to explain to us why they're over. There could be a very valid reason why they're over, or maybe there is a reason we didn't budget enough money in that line item for those. So I'm just trying to get ahead of budget and just really understand where we stand and making sure we're budgeting appropriately.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Thank you very much.
Would you like me to just send that in an email format to the council?
That would be great. Yep, just explaining those. And again, it's just the ones over 100%.
Okay.
Tim,
Will do.
may I make a suggestion that you make a motion to that effect, and maybe we just have it on our next agenda and it can just be an item. That way, if there is anything that you wanted to discuss, it's part of the agenda.
Sure. I'll make a motion to put the revenue and expenditure statements, anything greater than 100%, to be explained at the next council agenda on January 20th, right?
That's right. Yep. Is there a second?
I'll second that with a question now.
Yeah.
Tim, are you looking at individual line items, or you're looking at departments that have overspent their budget?
Yep, I'm looking at each department that has a line item that is over 100%, and just looking for an explanation as to why they went over.
So it is line items that you're looking for, because there is many here. Okay.
Yeah, and that's why I asked Julie in general if she could explain.
Yeah, and just as a maybe further explanation on this, typically when we do the revenue and expenditure reports, we're focused on the departments as a whole, because we don't have a crystal ball, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen during the year. And so it has been previously sort of acceptable if you're going over in one line item, as long as you can make it up in other line items. So we focus much more on the departments as a whole rather than line items. But I always appreciate having an extra set of eyes on the line items themselves. So I'm happy to look into those. And I've been so focused on the audit preparation for last year that it'll be a good opportunity to really dig into this year also. So
Great. And I'm not looking for a ton of detail. I'll give you an example, like finance department, IT and support. It's over by 14.
that was I can
just Tim, the reason why we had to buy this software, just FYI.
Right, and that, I mean, just just very quickly, that is actually Town Hall Complex IT. If you look at that budget, it's significantly under. So I took a quick peek at that today. It's just a misclassification, so that will be corrected. But those are the types of things that I can, I'm happy to report on next time.
So Tim, I made a suggestion as adding it as an agenda item. Maybe it just needs to be consent, and then you can pull and ask any questions on anything instead of requiring a rundown of each and every line item. And that was, I know that was your ultimate goal there. So we just have it in consent, and then anything that you have a question on, if not answered before it, we can bring it up at the next meeting. And if it doesn't have a question, it's in consent. So
I'll make a motion to amend my original motion to put it into consent agenda. If there's anything alarming that any of you see that you want to talk about, we have the option.
we can do it at that point.
Right.
I like that. Thank you. And then that was still seconded by Tony.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Either way, both sides. So.
Tony, and that was seconded by you?
I'm good with that change.
Excellent. Any other discussion? Hearing none. Mary?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries. Thanks.
And
I guess the next item would be the MM2 on the consent agenda.
Again, Tim.
yeah, I just wanted to pull this one out. In my years of being on the council, I guess I apologize. I wasn't aware of this elected official exit package. And this has, again, I want to preface, this has no reflection on the person that was currently in the role. I think I'm looking prospectively, and I'm also trying to understand where these numbers came to be and just looking for supporting documentation to support them. Mike Ursillo, I got your memorandum. It looks like there were two memorandums. One's been revived. So in short, I'm looking for documentation to explain the vacation and sick time, how that was tracked, just so we have a supporting documentation on that. Also have a better understanding of, how this change came to be. And prospectively, Chairman and my colleagues, I'd like to have a wider discussion. And I think I've been hearing that from a lot of you, looking at ways that we can kind of look at this elected official position in a more organic way.
Can you just preface this by saying full-time elected officials, because it does not involve the council. It means it's full-time.
Full-time, right. Sorry, full-time elected official, correct. Yes.
So Tim, I heard you say well, actually, let's back up just for a few seconds. And I agree. It's never been broken out. In fact, I had reached out to the solicitor when this conversation started and asked for this memorandum. And thanks, Mike. It was very, very helpful to have the legal background here. And certainly there is clear precedent, and Mike explains that in the memo. But I do agree that moving forward, charter says that the council sets up the administrator's salary in, for example, this term. If we were doing it right now and made a change, it would affect the next term. And I think that that's part of the discussion that we need to also have in regards to, and this exit, it particularly talks about the clerk's position. And the charter says that the council sets the clerk's dollars. Sorry, drawing a blank on that one. So, compensation. Boy, I lost that on that one. Thank you. So, and I think that we could look at maybe a similar way of handling it. So it gets rid of the political and personal, and it's more about a nice, clean process. It also makes sure, if you recall, the administrator's salary hadn't been changed in like 18 years. So I think there needs to be some required, kind of like we do a sunset on some of our ordinances, make sure that it is addressed. In fact, I'll remind everyone, as regard to the charter review, wanted the council to build something in that there was a cost of living increase in the council's salary. And ultimately didn't go that way. But that's the thing, is that there's political will necessary with that. And I think we all want to get away from that and more about a nice, clean process that is not only clear for the council, but as much as is important for the person who's affected, whether it's the administrator's positions, the clerk's position, which of course are full-time positions. So I couldn't agree more and we will have more dialogue about this, and it'll be inclusive of the two people that are sitting in those seats for input. Ultimately, of course, it's the council's decision, but we value both people and their input. So we'll listen to more of this. So Tim, in regards to this particular item, what would you like to take for next steps on this?
I'd like to continue it so we could all get the documentation that we need to make sure that we're making the most informed decision on this. Right now, all I have is a memorandum from the solicitor saying that the clerk is owed a certain severance exit package. I just want to make sure that I have all the supporting documents, like anything, that we can make the most informed decision to say, yes, this is valid, and we can move forward. Also, and to talk to your point, just to make sure we're taking it the next steps to make to look prospectively in regards to the position.
So we could continue this. You're suggesting to continue this to our next meeting, the 20th, and so we can get the supporting documentation that kind of coincides with these dollars. Mike, you wanted to input?
Yeah, and I'm looking at Julie also. So Julie, in fact, has all the supporting documentation, which backs up the sick time and the vacation time.
Everything is tracked in our ADP system. So anytime anybody is taking vacation or out sick, all of that is tracked. It's audited every year for the appropriate accruals. The auditors test whether what we're saying, we are liable at June 30th of every year. So they're testing whether somebody actually logged in that vacation time and now they have it accrued, or if something's been carried forward. So that is really the responsibility of the finance department, responsible for ADP and also for HR. It has all been reviewed and approved. I would really like to, assuming the council is approving that the previous clerk is treated as a non-union employee as he was, and that the accrual is going to be paid out. I would really hope that the council would vote tonight to release that payment to him. As employees leave the town, the typical process is the pay period following their pay is when the severance has been paid out, and the current town clerk was never told that that was not going to take place. So
Julie, point of clarity is that, so what I just heard you say is that you have, and normally wouldn't be, honestly, this has never been on the agenda like this, has nothing to do, I think, and Tim said it, I'll say it too, is that has nothing to do with the prior clerk or anything. It's just a clearer process. It's a more transparent process. And from doing that, more questions have come up from it. But to be clear, you have all the supporting documentation and have no concern that these dollar figures coincide, and you have supporting documentation.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
okay. All right. So, possibilities are that certainly that's accessible to this council. So Tim, you could reach out to the treasurer if you so choose, if this council wanted to take a different direction. But Tony, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I think Mary had her hand up too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mary, go ahead. Go first, Mary.
Go ahead, Mary.
What I was going to say is that I understand the issue of, the transparency and so forth, because as all the years that I've been on the council, I've not remember seeing this as well. Not that there's been that many clerks or people or administrators actually that have left. It doesn't happen that frequently, but I do think that it should probably get done, because it is past practice, and if all the information is already in the database of our HR system, and I also agree that I believe that these people, once they are elected, become treated like non-union employees. But if that's going to be different, then that's the point of discussion for us, that they would not be eligible for any of the, you can't have somebody work and not have sick time or I don't believe, or vacation time. But, does somebody who's an elected official accrue longevity, for example? It's a good question. I would say no, but those are things that we could need to make clear, either as policy or wherever that is, either in the charter, in the ordinances, in the policies, that going forward, it's very clear what you're getting into, because people, you also want capable people to run for office. And if they're going to have to lose every benefit, because and leave their other position to run for office, that's not a good thing either. So I mean, I think that there's been some interesting issues that have been raised by this, but I think we should go forward with this. And as I agree with Julie's position on this. And then either at the budget time or at just another workshop or whenever we talk about some of the, the employment issues or HR issues, I think that those things can be discussed because there are some valuable points that need to be clarified for everybody to be clear. Everybody knows that if you're a full-time elected official, you're going to get health benefits, for example. You're going to get, retirement benefits. And I would say as far as sick and vacation, et cetera, that you would be treated as a non-union employee. And that's everything that I've ever thought about. And I'm not in that position, obviously, but I look at it in the grant world. If you're hired by a community or by a school district, in the grant world, you are sort of treated the same way as a non-union employee, but you may not have the same status to be able to go in, if you lose your job, you lose your job type of thing, if you're no longer funded. So I do think that that's more similar to an elected official situation. And I think it would be like highly unfair to not do what we have done for every other clerk in this situation.
So Mary, I don't hear Tim expressing that in any way. What I heard, and Tim, if I may, is that I heard your concern was two different things. One was you were looking for the supporting documentation and you want to have a discussion. So I'm not hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I hear that we want that you were looking for the supporting documentation. And I believe that Julie has it, and I'm comfortable with Julie telling me that she has it. I don't personally need to see it, but I hear you saying, I want to know we have the documentation. Julie has now said that she has it. So for myself, I'm comfortable taking the next step. I'm also very interested in having a larger conversation about this and talking about what is the expectations of both the council and of that position, right? So, but for this evening, I agree. I think it's appropriate. I'm okay taking the next step. I also really want to have more dialogue about what we're going to do moving forward.
And I wasn't implying that Tim was opposed to it. I just was, he wanted to put it off to January 20th or
Gotcha.
whatever other date. That was my issue about going forward now.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay.
so my stance is all I have is a memorandum from the town solicitor, which was revised from like days to now hours, and that's it. So I'm just looking for since it's a large payment of taxpayer money for elected official. So let's make that clear to elected official. I'm not saying that that person doesn't deserve it. I just want to make sure that I crossed my T's, dotted my I's when I made the decision, that I had the supporting documentation to make sure I made this decision. Normally we have all this documentation to be able to make an informed decision. That's all I'm asking. If you guys want to go to a shorter, we have a special meeting and make a decision in a week or, later on next week or whatever. I just wanted some time to review the documentation, say, yes, it was good. We tracked everything. It's valid. It's a go for me. But I'm not comfortable making that decision tonight because literally all I have is a memorandum. That's it. So I just wanted to talk it out with you. And
I should add a piece for you is that I asked the solicitor to amend his memorandum because it was off from the treasurer's numbers, because his initial numbers were based off a couple of weeks ago, simply put. So I wanted them to coincide with the treasurer. So all of our documentation was, so it was off by $400 approximately. So just to be clear, and I wanted everything to match for this evening. I thought it was appropriate. So so the motion from Tim was to continue to the next meeting. I don't have to state the rest. I think you did it quite well. But is there a second in that regard?
Mr. Chairman, I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, discussion. Go ahead.
Maybe, I don't know if this is a question for Julie to answer, or maybe some of the others that are on this council might have the institutional knowledge to answer it, but it does seem to be a rather large amount of money. How often are these larger sums of money paid out? I know it has probably a lot more to do with the longevity of the person being in the position over a several number of years, but has there in the past been something.
Not uncommon for severance checks to be fairly large for a person who has been in their position long enough to have the maximum sick time accrual, long enough to have, a decent amount of vacation. You're allowed to carry up to 2 years of vacation. So if if an employee who is retiring plans it well, then, it is not uncommon to have a large payout for a sick and vacation time. I would like to just make sure that we're not, if we are putting off Lou's severance payment, I want to make sure that we're covered under the Fair Labor Standards Act. I know that there are issues with how long you can wait to pay out a severance check. I don't know if there's an exemption for an elected official, but I'm a little bit concerned about holding back that check. And I'll leave that one to you, Mike.
Yeah, no, we're sort of between a rock and a hard place here this evening. My advice to you is going to be to rely on what Julie has publicly stated, that the documentation exists to allow her to pay out the funds. That documentation is not going to change between now and January 20th, for instance. It's there, and it's not only kept by the finance director, it's actually in your payroll company's system. That's how it's been accrued over all of these years. To Aaron, to your point, yes, the number is large because the employee was in office for 16 years. Obviously, if you're talking about 4 years or 6 years or 10 years, it would be smaller. And in fact, this has happened with other individuals who held this position. I credit Nathan for bringing the discussion up with me to say, hey, shouldn't we be doing this in public? In the past, what would happen is that the checks would be processed in the ordinary course through finance, because don't forget, all of this is budgeted. There is nothing that is being paid out to the clerk that has not been budgeted. It's there. And again, as I put in my memo, although in a particular line item, you don't see the breakdown per employee in the overall budget number, it's there. And there is also a line item for severance pay. And you have more than enough in that line item at the present time, at least, to cover that. So it's not as if you're having to come up with extra money to make this payment. It's something that when you go through the budgetary process, you make a best finance, and the administrator makes a best effort as to how much is going to have to be paid out in severance, which is why you have a line item for severance. So
we also have the additional side fund. So in any given year, if we don't pay out as much severance as we have budgeted, the council very long time ago, before me even, made the decision that any excess funds would go to a severance fund. So we have what's called a committed fund for severance. There's about $150,000 in it. So one of the lines, so every year at the end of the year, I do a look back on the operating budget on the severance. And if it's overspent, we'll transfer money from the severance fund into the general fund. And if it's underspent, we'll transfer money from the general fund out to the severance fund. So, but there's plenty of money in there now to cover all of the expenses that we have.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Tony.
Okay. Well, I fully understand the request to have access to the records and the backup information, but I am very surprised. I really am, because this information was in our packet. Julie was available, I'm sure, as she explained this out. And by the way, this is not uncommon. If you think this is a great amount, let me tell you, look at the past records. And I know that Administrator Contenti and I experienced that some folks walked away with a much larger check. It was never public record. Not that the information was not available, as it was pointed out, all this information is through the paychecks is available. So, I'm just a little surprised. But anyway, going forward, I do agree, and I'm experiencing the same thing right now, okay, in Little Compton. We dealing with what's called with elected officials to have some sort of not contract, but terms of employment. You can be elected to a position, but once you get elected to that position, there are terms of employment that you have to abide by, and I think that may be one of the options to think about going forward.
Before any makes comment, I'd like for clarity point here, and certainly all will be, of course, but what's in front of us right now is whether or not this happens this evening, because I haven't heard anybody say don't do it. So it's just whether or not it happens this evening or it gets moved to the 20th. So let's keep the conversation in that regard. We all want to have more dialogue about this and talk about them more moving forward, including me. And I think the distinction is elected versus, this is not an employee, right? This is not a conversation about employee, it's elected. I think that's where the distinctive difference is. Maybe it's others, maybe other people have other thoughts, but what's in front of us right now is, are we going to continue it or are we going to make this decision this evening? I think that's really what we should be discussing right now. And on the future date, in a very close future date, we'll talk about how we want to move forward with this. So if we could, and certainly I'm not cutting anybody off, please make your point, but let's make sure that we stay, that's really what we're talking about at the moment. So go ahead, please.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to comment on Tony's comment. Tony, I want to let you know that I was aware of it. It was in our consent agenda. It was the last item in the consent agenda. I pulled it out. I had contacted Mike Ursillo and I talked with Julie and they were pulling the information for me. I am just simply asking for time to review it. I am not in any shape, this has nothing to do with the person in the position. I just want to make sure I'm dotting my I's, crossing my T's when we're allowing a large payment to go out, severance payment. Also, this is something new for me with a payout to elected officials. So I just want to make sure I'm doing my due diligence. That's all I'm simply asking for. So just to clarify, this isn't like a last minute Charlie on my part.
Anything else on the council?
Mr. Chairman, Aaron Lay here. Can we restate the motion one more time, what the motion is?
I'll ask you to restate your motion, Tim. Can't hear you.
Well, I'm making a motion to continue to the January 20th meeting to allow all of us to review the documentation for the severance payout for the former town clerk, and also to look at the elected official non-union employee policy prospectively moving forward.
Okay, and then that was seconded by Aaron.
So my question then is for the solicitor. You made a recommendation that we move forward with having the prospective conversation perhaps at the next meeting, but then move forward with the approval of the town clerk's severance package at this meeting, because there might be some issues with the FLSA.
Yeah, my concern is that the check probably should have gone out on December 23rd. And although I think it's fantastic and it makes total sense to shine some light on this whole process, which is why it's in front of the council. And I applaud Nathan for bringing this to the forefront, because it's truly where it belongs. If it weren't for Nathan doing that, this would have simply happened, because again, it's already in the budget. It's the way it has been done in the past, but it probably shouldn't have been done that way in the past. No one was really aware. As Tim says, you've never known when former clerks have left office, you had no idea. When former administrators left office, you had no idea. So it's a extremely positive thing that it is here in front of the council and you're having this discussion. But I'm looking at it more from the labor law side right now. And given that technically that check should have been out on December 23rd, I would rather that you vote on it tonight. Totally appreciating Tim's point of view on this, and something to think about certainly for the future.
Okay. All right, so we had the motion has already been restated. I won't do it again. Just continue in essence. and seconded. Is there any other discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Aaron Lay one more time. I just, after hearing what I've heard today and hearing what Julie has said, the way that I'm looking at this is that it sounds like we have a very good system in place for tracking sick days and those types of things. And so I think that even if Julie went and put something together that confirms whatever she said, it's not going to change my mind about whether or not to move forward with the severance payment. And so my position would be that we ought to move forward with the severance payment because there are all these other factors that are that we have to really be thinking about. The federal labor law, the fact that we have the auditing system in place, which I would have liked to hear about that a lot sooner as well, I think. But knowing what I do now, I don't think a lot is going to change my mind. I think moving forward, it would be nice, I think, to Councilman Sweeney's point, to have that larger discussion, which I think everybody would like to have.
So Aaron, should I take that as you're withdrawing your second? Because I hear that you don't want to, I hear that you want to do this now, which means that you don't want to continue it.
Well, I don't think I would have to withdraw my second. I think we could just move forward with the vote and then I would vote.
Okay. We can do that. All right.
If the motion's defeated, you just have another motion to pay.
I agree. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Sorry, then I'm going to call for Mr. Administrator.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to say my piece here. I just think this is Councilman Sweeney. This agenda went out on Wednesday, a week ago. The clerk provided it to you. And I just find it very hard to believe that the finance, hear me out. I find it hard to believe that the finance director didn't provide you with documents you were requesting. I just find that very hard to believe, Councilman Sweeney. And I just think this is a horrendous way to treat a person.
I'm not treating
dedicated.
anybody. This has nothing to do with the town clerk, Mr. Administrator. I made this very clear. I am just asking for the supporting documentation, and I have a right to the supporting documentation. I'm really alarmed that you're coming in and you're saying that you're angry at me. We just passed the holiday. I reviewed my agenda. This was on the consent agenda. It was the last item. I have called the town solicitor and I've worked with the Julie and she is getting the documentation. I am simply just asking for more time to be able to review so I can make a most informed decision. So I'm a little alarmed that you're coming at me because I want to do my due diligence and not respecting that. I want to look at all the supporting documentation. With most of our decisions, we have a lot of supporting documentation, and I'm just asking for that. I'm not saying that he's not deserving of the severance payment. He probably is, and it probably will go through, and it's fine. I just want to make sure I have the supporting documentation. So don't make me feel bad for not wanting to look at that documentation.
Well, I'm just very surprised you don't have the documentation. When did you ask for the documentation?
We're going to stop. We're going to, what I would ask that Tim, feel free to respond if you so choose, but we need to move forward with this. So I think you both made your point. I can
answer his question.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
I called Julie yesterday. She was out of the office. She returned the call today. She was gathering the information. I had talked to Mike Gracilla. He sent me a text this afternoon that they were working on the information to get me all that information. And so I said, thank you. I'm hoping to review the information and then we'll move forward.
Then I apologize because I didn't actually know that you were waiting on anything from me. So if there's supporting documentation needed, then I just need to understand what that looks like. Is that all of the vacation days that Lou took and sick days? Am I pulling calendars or is it just an ADP summary?
My question. Yeah, my question is, it's just that the memorandum came in that there was 120 days, and then there was 54.5 days, and then a revised amendment came in for 960 hours, and then it changed to 392 hours. So I was going to just talk to you about why it switched from days to hours. ADP hasn't been with us for 16 years, so I just wanted to know how that was being tracked. I am simply just trying to understand the process here, never going through this before. So I'm just, again, just trying to really do my due diligence. So I'm sorry I'm making all of you frustrated, but
That's okay. I'd be happy
I
to
just,
send you a
I'm
copy of
looking out
the,
for the taxpayer.
yep, I'd be happy to send you a copy of the calculation that we do, and I could probably pull an ADP like summary report. When we did the ADP conversion, you know, we had a manual tracking of everybody's time. So we simply put in beginning balances into ADP, and then from then on, everybody puts in a request, it gets approved. And then those days are all recorded and tracked in ADP. So again, I'm happy to get you any information and that you would like. I'm just a little bit nervous about holding the payment back. That's all.
So here's what we're going to do, regardless of what happens with the next vote and the vote after that. Julie, if you could supply that information to the council, and obviously Tim's the one who's asking for it, but the council, and that can come in a separate email through the clerk's department. But regardless of what this council takes as a next step, it's a request from a council person for info. That's fine. So, all right. So I'm going to stop the dialogue here with this. I'm going to call for a vote. We had a motion to continue. The motion also included a greater discussion. So I'll stop right there. So motion made by Tim, seconded by Aaron. We're all set with discussion. So Mary?
I vote no.
Okay. Tim?
Aye.
Tony?
No.
Aaron? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Nay.
Nay. Okay. I also vote nay. Motion fails. Is there a new motion?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we pay out the town clerk or the former town clerk as requested.
I would like to add to that we continue with the discussion either at a separate meeting or during the budget time to come up with, like, as you said, the terms of employment, the policies of what an elected official would be if they'd be classified as a non-union employee and follow that contract, so to speak. I think that that's an important discussion to have.
I think we all agree.
I just would like to add it to that motion.
Okay. All right.
That's fine. That's fine to add that. I mean, concurrence.
So Mary, should I take that as your second?
Yes, you can take that as a second.
Thank you. So motion made by Tony, seconded by Mary with those, we'll call them adjustments, not amendments. Discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mary?
I vote yes.
Tony?
Aye.
Tim?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion carries a 4-1. As we also spoke about, we will schedule something in the nearest future, and we will work with the full-time elected officials in those positions right now for their input and suggestion on how we should be moving forward. This was never going to be a comfortable conversation. And I heard no one speak negatively about the prior clerk, and I think that's important to have on the record. I also believe that uncomfortable conversations like this are maybe not that uncomfortable, but they're important. And that's why it was there. And moving forward, we need to have a better and maybe a clearer policy with all of this. And we're all on the same page, at least about that. So, okay. Is there anything else? If not, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved, and Happy New Year to everybody.
Second, and Happy New Year to all.
Okay, discussion. I'll give you an opportunity to say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Okay,
Happy New Year.
all right. So that was the discussion portion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank goodness. All right, good night, everybody. Happy New Year.
Good night, all. Stay well.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.